Chapter 8:13. Unknowingly, the wind had calmed down, and the clouds in the sky had stopped moving as if frozen, turning into a landscape painting. As for the ocean waves below, when they reached several hundred meters in the air, they also froze, leaving little sprays floating on their tips. The heaven and earth were silent, and all creations were still. The Dark Light King's eyes shot out a black beam, devoid of any emotion. The space distorted as he leaped up. As he rose, his aura also soared, filling the air with a world-destroying aura. Burning sky annihilation. The aura eventually reached its limit. When it reached its limit, the Dark Light King made his move. Placing his left hand on his right arm, he spread open his right palm and fiercely slapped toward Yi Qin, who was dozens of li away. This palm directly locked onto the sky where Yi Qin was. Yi Qin shockingly discovered that the surrounding space was rapidly warping. Not to mention dodging, he couldn't even move forward. The Dark Light King's burning sky annihilation had already reached the point of shattering the void. Although it didn't contain the space profound, its destructive power was frightening. Ping 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 ping. Something even more frightening happened. Countless fireballs of different sizes appeared in the space. The smallest was only the size of a fist and had a deep red color, while the biggest was the size of a house. Hundreds upon thousands of fireballs revolved around Yi Qin and exploded. Being at the center of the explosion, Yi Qin could feel that even the smallest fireball had the destructive power to heavily injure ordinary Sea of Soul Realm experts. The largest fireball could even force a half-step king to retreat. Hundreds upon thousands of fireballs exploded simultaneously, their power stacking together. Perhaps no one under Life and Death Realm would be able to withstand it, not even Yi Qin. It was hard to imagine how the Dark Light King had created such a powerful move. Unfortunately, great might didn't mean great moves. Burning Sky Annihilation's accumulation time was too long. No one would foolishly stay where they were and let it hit them. Using the sword steps, Yi Qin flickered out just before the fireball exploded. Ping ping ping, some of the fire waves struck Yi Qin's body, but they were easily deflected by Yi Qin. When the fire waves overlapped with each other and couldn't be deflected, Yi Qin casually slashed out a path. The Dark Light King's mouth curved into a cruel smile as he clenched his right hand and shouted, "Destroy!" A dragon's roar resounded. The waves of fire formed by the explosion of the fireballs rapidly gathered together, forming a black-red fire dragon that could burn the heavens and earth. The fire dragon raised its head to the sky and roared, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The scorching heat caused the surrounding several miles to turn into a vacuum. Boom! With a flash of red light, the fire dragon quickly swam towards Yi Qin. In the eyes of the crowd, the fire dragon didn't seem to be very fast, but it caught up in a few breaths. Break! Up until now, Yi Qin had only used the evil vanquishing sword with his full strength once, and that was when he broke Dark Light King's ultimate move, Blazing Earth. Other times, Yi Qin could only use 50% of the sword's power. It wasn't that he didn't want to go all out, but the sword consumed too much Zhen Yuan. With the amount of Zhen Yuan he had, he could only use it 5 times. It was precisely because the evil shattering sword consumed a lot of Zhen Yuan that it was exceptionally powerful. This time Yi Qin did not use any of his ultimate attacks. Instead, he used the gold pattern that he had long since retreated to the second line. Buzz! The dark gold pattern spread out, cutting off the head of the fire dragon directly, causing sparks to fly everywhere. You think it's over just like that? Dark Light King sneered. Boundless Zhen Yuan rushed out and gathered on the fire dragon. With a pop, the fire dragon grew a new head and opened its mouth, biting towards Yi Qin's body. Waning moon. Yi Qin's expression remained unchanged as he waved the evil vanquishing sword in the air. Immediately, a black crescent-shaped sword energy swept through the fire dragon's body like a waning moon descending upon the world. Crack, crackle. No matter how powerful the fire dragon was, it still couldn't escape its fate of being crushed. The evil vanquishing sword's full power combined with the waning moon, which was second only to bewitching mirror shattering, had a destructive power that even Yi Qin couldn't estimate. Impossible. Dark Light King's eyes were wide open. He was the clearest about the burning sky annihilation's might, and yet Yi Qin had broken it so easily. This was a devastating blow to him. At this moment, his battle intent was rapidly declining. There was only one thought in his mind: where there's life, there's hope. Run. Dark Light King's figure flickered as he shot out. With a light snort, Yi Qin's left finger moved, and the broken blood sword came out of its sheath. It chased after Dark Light King at an extreme speed and fiercely slashed at his protective Zhen Yuan. Clang. Sparks flew everywhere as a clear sword mark was left on the Dark Light King's protective Zhen Yuan. At the same time, he himself was sent flying by the enormous power of the broken blood sword, unable to control his body. Sword light streaked across the sky as Yi Chen instantly appeared near Dark Light King, thrusting his sword at the air. "You want to kill me? Dream on." Dark Light King roared and once again used the heaven-grade high-grade secret art, cicada shedding. This secret art had helped him escape death countless times, and this time was no exception. However, Yi Chen was already waiting for him. Flipping the evil vanquishing sword, Yi Chen's wrist shook. With a speed that even soul power couldn't capture, the sword pierced through the Dark Light King's protective Zhen Yuan and landed on his throat. Shortly after, it came out from the back of his neck, bringing with it a wisp of dark red blood. Beside him was a lifelike image. Following the blazing world and burning sky annihilation, Dark Light King's cicada shedding carapace was also broken. However, unlike the previous 2 times, he had lost his life this time. One slash to the throat. Everyone's eyes froze, including Yu Lingshuang. They didn't expect the Dark Light King's death to come so quickly. In the previous times, Yi Chen was clearly helpless against the Dark Light King's cicada shedding carapace. But this time, the Dark Light King didn't even have the chance to escape and was instantly killed by Yi Chen. The Dark Light King was still alive. His gaze fell on the evil vanquishing sword that had pierced through his throat. He wanted to say something but nothing came out. His voice was muffled by the evil vanquishing carapace, just like how his throat had been pierced by the sword. Blood spurting out unceasingly, the Dark Light King used the last of his strength to send a spiritual message to Yi Chen. "Why? How could you break my cicada shedding carapace?" Since the person was already dead, Yi Chen didn't need to let him die with grievances. He replied, "Cicada shedding carapace has an extremely powerful confusion property, but it's not worth mentioning to me. You were able to escape the previous times because cicada shedding carapace was fast enough to surpass my sword art. As long as my first attack landed, none of the following attacks would be able to kill you. Therefore the first attack was merely a feint. The real killing move is the second one, which is this one." So that's how it is. The Dark Light King understood. His gloomy eyes were filled with regret and unwillingness. All sorts of emotions gathered at this moment. The Dark Light King understood, but the others might not. What the hell happened? How did this kid break Dark Light King's cicada shedding carapace? That sword wasn't that much faster than the previous ones. Could it be that the Dark Light King was gravely injured and his condition has deteriorated? That's why cicada shedding carapace has a weakness? Although I don't know what happened, I can be sure that the problem lies with this kid and not the Dark Light King. How frightening. First, he broke Dark Light King's blazing earth and burning sky annihilation, and now he broke cicada shedding carapace. There's nothing more despairing than this. Having one's life-saving trump card destroyed was a cruel blow to anyone. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could this happen? The one who couldn't accept it the most was none other than the steward of the glorious exchanges. He was one of the few who had witnessed the might of burning sky annihilation. Thus, he was certain that the Dark Light King would be able to kill Yi Chen. Apart from him, cicada shedding carapace had never been broken before. Knowing the Dark Light King's background, he couldn't accept the fact that Yi Chen had killed the Dark Light King in one strike. He couldn't understand how Yi Chen would emerge victorious with such a huge disparity in cultivation base. Nothing could be more absurd and subversive than this. He had brought 4 half-step kings this time to prevent others from interfering. As long as the Dark Light King killed Yi Chen, he could entice the latter with generous conditions and obtain the sword-forging art jade strip originally belonging to Yi Chen. As long as he brought it back, he would certainly receive a reward. However, the result was completely different from what he had imagined. He actually broke cicada shedding carapace. I'm afraid only he can do so. Huang Mei was one of the few who knew how Yi Chen had broken cicada shedding carapace. However, one had to be fast enough in order to break cicada shedding carapace. A sword artist's sword arts had always been fast, and Yi Chen was a peak sword artist. Therefore, even if he could break it, others might not necessarily be able to. There's still one more year before the decennial event. He should be participating. Huang Mei said inwardly. Slowly letting out a breath, the silver moon Arctic fox phantom behind Yu Lingshuang gradually dimmed and retracted. She sighed, "Indeed, there's always someone better. Although I'm a rare genius of the silver moon Arctic fox clan, Elysium has too many peerless geniuses. This one before me is enough to shock the world." Yu Lingshuang was not very old, only in her 30s. With his throat pierced, the Dark Light King slowly closed his eyes. His life aura also became faintly discernible. Abruptly, the Dark Light King opened his eyes, which were brimming with boundless hatred and madness. "If I die, let's all die together." Forcefully speaking caused a hole to appear in the Dark Light King's throat. His voice, under the vibrations of Zhen Yuan, was distorted and malicious. In almost an instant, the Dark Light King's body swelled up. A flickering black radiance illuminated his skin, revealing his internal organs. Looking down, one could see a lump of black radiance revolving and expanding in his dantian. At the same time, a crack had appeared on the Dark Light King's forehead, and his martial will was dispersing. In the face of death, the Dark Light King activated a secret art, intending to self-detonate his body and sea of soul. The self-detonation of a strongest, half-step king at the second layer of life and death chamber. Moreover, it was a double detonation. One could easily imagine how powerful it would be. Even a strongest, half-step king would be doomed if caught in it. Damn it. Everyone was indescribably horrified and frantically fled. They were only a few dozen li away from the two. This distance was not enough to resist the double detonation of a strongest, half-step king. Perhaps even 100 li was not safe. The further they fled, the better. Self-detonation. Yi Chen's brows creased. He was the closest to the Dark Light King. If the latter self-detonated, he wouldn't be able to escape. Haha, so what if you beat me? You'll still die. The Dark Light King was incomparably happy, and his smile was distorted. You'll have to ask me first if you want to self-detonate. Yi Chen's expression turned solemn. His forehead suddenly split open and a silver radiance surged out. Chapter 8:14. What is this? A third eye? Dark Light King had a bad premonition. The crack on Yi Chen's forehead was like a silver vertical eye. It didn't have a pupil, but he could feel that the power of the vertical eye had already penetrated through his forehead and into his sea of soul. A majestic soul pressure was firmly locking onto him. A silver beam shot out from Yi Chen's vertical eye and drilled into Dark Light King's sea of soul. Dark Light King's sea of soul was on the verge of collapse, but as soon as the silver beam entered, his sea of soul was pierced through, and his remnant consciousness was annihilated. With the crisis of sea of soul self-destruction resolved, Dark Light King's remnant consciousness disappeared. The Zhen Yuan within his body hadn't been brewed to the most crucial point before self-destruction. With a bang, Dark Light King's body turned into ashes, and a black radiance burst out, turning into a black fireball several li in size. Yi Chen's figure was instantly devoured by the black fireball. Yi Chen. Murong Qingqing was anxious. She was the only one who hadn't left the area. Don't worry, I'm fine. Suddenly Yi Chen's voice entered Murong Qingqing's ears. At the center of the black fireball was a bronze protective Zhen Yuan, firmly protecting Yi Chen's body. The black radiance could only create ripples on its surface, unable to shake it in the slightest. As the energy dissipated, Yi Chen's figure gradually became clear. Fortunately, he didn't succeed in double self-destruction. Otherwise, even if I wore bronze armor, I would have been blown into meat paste. Yi Chen's spirit was somewhat dispirited, and his face was filled with exhaustion. Double self-detonation was an extremely frightening indiscriminate destruction art. If Dark Light King succeeded, his berserk Zhen Yuan and martial will would explode. Not to mention Yi Chen, anyone under life and death realm wouldn't be able to withstand it. They would lose control of their own life and death. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Yi Chen used his special ability, the Soul Eye. In the early stages, the Soul Eye could only be used to observe things in a large area. But, as his cultivation increased and he was now a half-step king warrior, the Soul Eye had evolved into the Soul Light. Soul Light was, in fact, the manifestation of a highly concentrated soul power, possessing an extremely powerful soul attack effect. Under the attack of Yi Chen's Soul Light, the Dark Light King's Sea of Soul was pierced, and his consciousness dissipated along with it. Not only that, the Zhen Yuan within his body went berserk without the Dark Light King's control. It didn't reach its peak, and was merely equivalent to the most ordinary Zhen Yuan explosion of a half-step king. It couldn't do anything to Yi Chen, who was clad in bronze armor. Otherwise, the Dark Light King's self-destruction would have been enough to cripple Yi Chen even if he didn't die. It was extremely dangerous. However, after using the Soul Light for the first time, Yi Chen was not completely unscathed. His soul power had been reduced by more than half. If he wanted to recover to his peak, he would need at least a couple of months. During this period of time, although his battling power would not be affected, it would be impossible for him to use the soul light again. Otherwise, his soul power would be completely used up and that would be very dangerous. This was also the reason why Yi Chen's spirit was somewhat dispirited. The self-destruction is so weak. The fleeing crowd stopped one after another. The Dark Light King's double self-destruction was too weak, and the shockwaves couldn't have reached this far. It should have been several dozen li at most. No, it doesn't contain any martial will. Someone reacted. Now that you mention it, it's true. Could this kid have used some method to stop Dark Light King's Sea of Soul explosion? Because everyone was busy fleeing, they didn't notice what had happened. Therefore none of them saw Yi Chen use soul light and could only guess. To be able to stop even the double self-destruction. Bingxin, you don't need to worry about your benefactor anymore. With his strength, those under life and death realm that can threaten him are few and far between. Although Yu Lingshuang didn't flee, she still retreated several dozen li. She couldn't stop the Dark Light King's double self-destruction, nor did she have the time to save Yi Chen. The only thing she could do was retreat. Yu Bingxin asked, "Auntie, do you think young Master Yi has the qualifications to enter the life and death substitute list?" Yu Lingshuang stared blankly for a moment before replying, "It's very difficult. The life and death substitute list only records geniuses under the age of 50, and there are only 36 of them. One can well imagine the difficulty of entering it. After all, Elysium is too big and there are too many geniuses. Moreover, this life and death substitute list doesn't only include humans, but also demonic beasts, sea beasts, half-beasts, demonic humans and other races. Choosing 36 life and death substitute list from all these races, one can well imagine the difficulty. But I feel that young Master Yi is very strong. Who knows, this might not be his strongest strength." Yu Bingxin had a new understanding of Yi Chen. Therefore she was certain that he was unfathomable. The Dark Light King is not a world-shaking genius. Therefore, even though he has reached the second layer of life and death chamber, he's still lost to your benefactor. As for the life and death substitute list, each and every one of them is a peerless genius. They are all experts who can battle above their realm. I've seen a mid-half-step king who defeated a life and death substitute list second layer life and death chamber. He was only ranked in the 20s. As for the top 10, their cultivation bases are all at the first layer or higher. After several years, there might even be some at the peak of the third layer. Yu Lingshuang didn't deny Yi Chen. If the scene just now had happened a few years ago, she would have also felt that Yi Chen could enter the life and death substitute list. But now it was a bit uncertain. After all, they were all world-shaking geniuses. If one could battle above their realm, so could she. At this moment, what mattered was cultivation base. Is that so? Yu Bingxin didn't expect that entering the life and death substitute list would be so difficult. Let's go. Seeing Yi Chen kill the Dark Light King manager, his eyes flickered several times. In the end, he still left with his people. With their strength, they simply couldn't defeat Yi Chen. As the 5 left, the others also left, leaving only Huang Mei, Yu Lingshuang and Yu Bingxin. Hehe, after defeating the Dark Light King, you're now a strongest, half-step king. Huang Mei walked over and said with a beaming smile. Shaking off the bloodstains on the evil vanquishing sword, Yi Chen indifferently smiled, "It's just an empty title." After killing the Dark Light King, he indeed had the qualifications to be called a strongest, half-step king. However, it was only in Gemstone Islands that he could be considered as strongest, half-step king. After all, who knew how many realms one could battle above one's realm? Therefore, as strongest, half-step king's cultivation base was at least at the first layer of life and death chamber. Young Master Yi. Yu Bingxin and Yu Lingshuang also walked over. Yi Chen said apologetically, "I'm sorry. I left in a hurry and forgot to greet you." "It's fine." Yu Bingxin smiled. "Is young Master Yi really not going to Moonlight Island as a guest?" She then looked at Yi Chen with a hopeful gaze. "Let's talk about it later." Moonlight Island was overseen by a life and death king, and Yi Chen wasn't used to visiting someone else's headquarters. Chapter 8:15. All good things must come to an end. After parting ways with Huang Meiwei, Yu Bingxin and Yu Lingshuang, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing flew southward, quickly disappearing into the horizon. Rich Light Ocean span was incomparably vast. The two flew on the flying puppet for 5 days, but they still couldn't leave this ocean span. Eventually the two landed on a volcanic island. The island was rhomboid in shape, with a total of 11 volcanoes, 2 big and 9 small. The volcanoes were as tall as cones, and their craters flickered with red light as if they could erupt at any time. We're still hundreds of millions of miles away from our destination. There's no rush. We can cultivate here for a period of time. I also want to learn the art of forging swords. If a swordsman knew how to forge swords, he would have a deeper understanding of the sword Dao. And my comprehension of martial arts is a bit low. Murong Qingqing nodded. Her foundation was much higher than Yi Chen's, but her martial arts couldn't keep up with her cultivation base. If her martial arts could reach a higher realm, even the Dark Light King might not be her opponent. After all, demonic power was a higher energy than Zhenyuan. Just like that, the two settled down on the volcanic island, one cultivating martial arts and the other learning sword forging. The process of sword forging wasn't very complicated, but it required a lot of patience. This was something Yi Chen didn't lack. On the contrary, he was quite outstanding. Time flew and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In these 3 days, Yi Chen had finally mastered the technique of low-rank sword forging, and had successfully created a real low-rank great sword. This low-grade sword was very ordinary, even a bit crude. In terms of quality, it could only be considered as a low-grade sword. However, this had a great significance for Yi Chen because he had taken the first step in sword forging, which was also the most important step. There were a lot of low-grade metals in his storage ring, more than 10,000 of them. After his first success, Yi Chen wasted no time in forging the second, third, and even more low-grade swords. He wasn't in a hurry to forge mid-grade swords. No matter what, one had to have a good foundation. Without a good foundation, problems would inevitably arise in the future. This was the principle of sharpening a knife to cut firewood. Inside the huge volcano was a magma lake. Next to the lake, a blue-robed youngster was hammering a sword. Dang 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 dang, the hammer was a professional low-grade hammer. By pouring a trace of true essence into it, it would have more power and could easily change the subtle shape of the sword. There were rows of swords hanging on the walls of the volcano. They were all low-grade swords. These low-grade swords emitted different colors of light. There were red, blue, green, purple, black, yellow, and there were also clouds and mist lingering around them, or water vapor filling the air. The attributes of the swords were related to the materials used to forge them. Some metals were of the fire attribute, so the resulting swords would be of the fire attribute. Some metals were of the wind attribute, so the resulting swords would naturally be of the wind attribute. Apart from this, one could also mix some other things into the metal, such as fire cloud stone, thunder brilliant stone, and other gems that contained attribute energy. A graceful figure descended from the volcano's crater. It was Murong Qingqing. She didn't disturb Yi Chen, but walked to the wall of the volcano where the swords were hanging. So many have been forged in the past few days? Murong Qingqing was somewhat astonished. Yi Chen's forging speed was getting faster and faster. In the beginning it would take him 3 days to forge the first sword. Then the time rapidly shortened. Now he had forged dozens of swords in a few days. Of course, this was also related to Yi Chen's status as a half-step king. Ordinary martial artists would take several months or even a year to forge swords. Taking out a fire attribute low-grade sword, Murong Qingqing casually waved it. The quality has also improved. This sword is almost at the level of an ordinary low-grade treasure sword. This one is already at the middle grade. Ordinary. Medium. Among the 100 low-grade swords, the majority were ordinary and only 3 were medium. Try this one. At this moment, Yi Chen walked over and handed the low-grade sword to Murong Qingqing. Its thunder attribute. Receiving the sword, Murong Qingqing could feel the thunder power within. Not bad. Perhaps it's because my achievements in Thunder Profound and Metal Profound are quite high, so forging Thunder and Metal attribute low-grade swords is quite easy. Moreover, I have a new idea for this one. It should give you a fright. Yi Chen smiled. Is that so? Murong Qingqing didn't dare to pour too much demonic power into the sword, fearing that it would break. Strands of demonic power poured into the sword and blossomed with black lightning. With a light wave of Murong Qingqing, a huge rock beside the lava lake was split into 2 halves. Destruction Sword Qi. Murong Qingqing finally understood why Yi Chen said it could give her a fright. A mere low-grade sword could actually release Destruction Sword Qi. The Destruction Sword Qi contained Destruction Sword Intent, which was more than twice as powerful as ordinary sword Qi. What do you think? Yi Chen was very happy. He found that forging swords was very enjoyable and he could obtain some benefits from it. Murong Qingqing's eyes lit up as she said, "This low-grade thunder attribute sword is still medium-grade, but with the Destruction Sword Qi, even high-grade low-grade swords are far inferior to it. If it is given to a sect or family's disciple, their strength will increase by many folds." Yi Chen nodded. "You think the same as me?" The art of forging swords is very important to a sect, and the swords forged by me are even more valuable. Although the low-grade sword was useless to Yi Qin, it was very important to the disciples of the Sky Cloud Martial School or the Yi family. After all, they were not powerful enough to carry a mid-grade sword or even a high-grade sword everywhere. Not to mention whether or not they could unleash the full power of the sword, just having a treasure like this would cause them to die without a burial place. Therefore, one's strength could only be matched with their own sword. Murong Qingqing smiled and said, "My Murong family also has many disciples who use swords. When the time comes, you have to give me some." How could the low-grade sword she bought be compared to the destruction sword forged by Yi Qin? "Don't worry, I have a lot of materials." Yi Qin's tone changed as he said, "Moreover, I plan to merge the immortal sword intent into the sword as well. You should know how powerful it is." "That's right, the immortal sword intent is your fundamental sword intent." How could Murong Qingqing not know how powerful the immortal sword intent was? The immortal sword intent left behind by the Battle King in the natural moat gorge had only dissipated after 500 years. If the immortal sword intent was merged into a low-grade sword, apart from making the sword chi more powerful, it would also make the sword harder. Although it might not surpass the destruction sword intent in terms of power, it would be more powerful when it came to forging swords. After chatting with Yi Qin for a while, Murong Qingqing left the volcano and continued to study martial arts, while Yi Qin devoted himself to forging swords. In a flash, 1 month had passed. Within a month, Yi Qin had forged more than 700 low-grade swords. His forging skills had increased by several times. Even if he occasionally made mistakes, the low-grade swords he forged were at least mid-grade. Normally he could forge high-grade low-grade swords. As for thunder and metal attribute low-grade swords, Yi Qin could already forge them into super-grade swords, which could be said to be a major breakthrough. Swoosh! Holding the newly forged sword in his hand, Yi Qin slashed at the magma lake in front of him. The fierce sword chi tore open a huge ravine on the surface of the magma lake as the sword chi pervaded the air. This power is much more powerful than ordinary mid-grade swords. Yi Qin's face was full of smiles. He could imagine how powerful the disciples of the Yi clan or the Sky Cloud Martial School would be if they held the low-grade swords he forged. Flowers in a greenhouse would never know how to be tough. Just like Yi Qin, if he had not been through a lot of danger, he would not have been able to grow to where he was now. Therefore, having a great sword would be their fortune. My low-grade sword forging technique's foundation is already very solid, but it's still far from my goal. When the swords I forge are all super-grade low-grade swords, I'll use the low-grade sword forging technique to the point of perfection. Then I'll start researching the mid-grade sword forging technique. Actually, Yi Qin could already forge mid-grade swords, but he wasn't in a hurry. He wanted to reach the peak of the low-grade sword forging technique, and then reach the same level of the mid-grade sword forging technique. Only then would he have some confidence in forging supreme-grade swords in the future. Otherwise, wouldn't it mean that anyone who had learned the sword forging technique would be able to forge supreme-grade swords? It was far from that simple. Even Yi Qin wasn't confident that he could reach that far in the sword forging technique. In the next half a month, Yi Qin's progress was even faster. Not only were all the low-grade swords he forged supreme-grade swords, but he also forged more than the previous month, reaching more than 900 swords. Half of them contained the destruction sword chi, while the other half contained the immortal sword chi. In fact, if there were any sword forging masters here, they would be dumbfounded by Yi Qin's achievements. Forging 1,600 and 700 low-grade swords in 1.5 months. Even a half-step king couldn't be this exaggerated. 4 ordinary half-step kings, it would be pretty good if they could have a third of Yi Qin's achievements. Moreover, it was impossible to forge all of them into supreme-grade low-grade swords. This was already a legendary low-grade sword forging master. Only the heavens knew how high Yi Qin's talent in sword forging was. Yi Qin also vaguely knew that his achievements in this 1.5 months were somewhat exaggerated. After pondering for a long time, he concluded that it was related to his own experiences. Battle King, Iron Sword King, Dual Sword King, Immortal Sword Intent, Destruction Sword Intent, and Slaughter Sword Intent. With the 3 great sword intents gathered in one body, he had a unique advantage in sword forging. He could always add some of his own creativity into the process. This was the reason why he could reach this level. If it were another sword Dao genius not inferior to Yi Qin, they wouldn't be able to reach this step, because it was simply unimaginable. Of course, forging 1,600 and 700 swords in 1.5 months was mainly because the grade of the swords was too low. If it were a mid-grade sword, it would probably shrink by several times. Upper-grade swords would shrink by several times again, and the same was true for semi-extreme grade swords. For extreme grade swords, forging one in a few months was already pretty good, provided that they could be forged. In the first half month, he had forged 900 low-grade swords. In the second half, Yi Qin had forged 1,200 low-grade swords. In total, he had forged nearly 3,000 swords. I've used up all the low-grade materials. 2,888 swords, not bad. Looking at the densely packed low-grade swords on the volcano's walls, Yi Qin let out a breath. Learning sword forging could be said to be a money-burning profession. 10,000 sets of low-grade materials had cost him tens of millions of low-grade spirit stones, which was around 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones. How could ordinary low-grade sects have so many spirit stones to spend? Therefore, even if low-grade sects had forging knowledge, the low-grade blacksmiths they nurtured could only forge mid-low-grade artifacts, which was far from Yi Chen's level. Chapter 8:16. Finally, I can forge a mid-grade sword. Right now, Yi Chen could forge a supreme low-grade sword with his eyes closed. Even if he couldn't say that he had reached the pinnacle of the sword forging art, he was at least at the point of perfection, and could casually make one. After preparing the mid-grade materials, Yi Chen immediately began forging. A week later, the first mid-grade sword was forged. This mid-grade sword was a meter long with a dark blue hilt. The sword body flickered with a cold light and was suffused with strands of flames. Pouring in a strand of zhenyuan, a foot-long flaming sword light shot out with a sizzling sound. The effect of a good foundation had arrived. This fire attribute mid-grade sword was not low-grade but mid-grade. It should be known that the first low-grade sword that Yi Chen had forged was low-grade. The difficulty of forging a mid-grade sword was more than double or triple. It was at least 5 times more difficult. A sword forged by me in a year is enough for any 7th grade sect to not have to worry about a lack of swords. Yi Chen smiled and muttered to himself. But a 7th grade sect doesn't have a half-step king, nor does it have someone who is both a half-step king and a legendary swordsmith. Murong Qingqing descended from the crater. That's true. Yi Chen faintly nodded. A 7th grade sect producing a half-step king was already a miracle, and this half-step king was a legendary swordsmith. This was no longer a miracle but a legend. However, after thinking about it, he seemed to fit both criteria. Weren't Sky Cloud sect and Yi family both 7th grade powers? How is your cultivation? Yi Chen asked. Murong Qingqing said, Dark Devour reached perfection a week ago. I've been cultivating Demonic Fist this week. Not bad. Dark Devour wasn't a high-grade profound martial skill, but only a peak mid-grade profound martial skill. However, due to the Dark Profound's innate tyrannical nature, cultivating it to perfection would have a significant effect on Murong Qingqing's strength. Most importantly, with the Dark Devour as a transition, her Dark Profound would have a huge improvement. Next, she would be able to create a high-grade profound martial skill. As for the demon's Demonic Fist, this fist art's potential was enormous. With its initial comprehension, Murong Qingqing was able to injure the Dark Light King. One could well imagine how powerful it would be once it reached greater completion. It would not be inferior to the majority of high-grade profound martial skills. Just like the previous 2 months, the two of them chatted for a while and then went their separate ways to do their own things. At the Sea of Soul realm, one would have a lifespan of 300 years, which was equivalent to 10 lifetimes of an ordinary person. Forging mid-grade swords was much more difficult than forging low-grade swords, and the efficiency was also lower. Even after mastering it, one could only forge 5 or 6 mid-grade swords a day. Fortunately, Yi Chen had a lot of patience. Compared to sword forgers at Condensing Reality or Clasping Yuan realm, his efficiency was astonishing. The higher one's cultivation base, the faster one could do anything. Just like sharpening the edge of a mid-grade sword, there was no need to go through so much trouble. A single stroke of a finger on the blade would make it sharper than anything else. Low-rank great swords can only contain a limited amount of sword intent, and the increase in power is limited as well. Mid-rank great swords are indeed different. I wonder if I can create a high-rank or super-rank upper-rank great sword. Will its power reach the semi-extreme rank? It should be possible. 5th step Destruction Sword Intent and 4th step Immortal Sword Intent were so powerful that they could contain a single wisp of them. If it were any other half-step king, they would not be able to accomplish such a feat. This was because their sword intent was not as high-grade as Yi Chen's, nor was it as powerful as Yi Chen's. Even if they used special methods to seal it in their swords, it would be far inferior to Yi Chen's. On the contrary, it would take a lot of time and effort. While Yi Chen was forging mid-grade swords, a person was looking for them. This person was none other than the black-robed old man who had been heavily injured by Mysterious King in the Mysterious Tower. The black-robed old man's arm had been chopped off by Mysterious King, and his heart had also suffered a blow, losing several hundred years of cultivation base. Fortunately, the chaotic demon ocean's demonic human clan had many heavenly treasures. After spending a few months, he had completely recovered his cultivation base, returning his strength to its peak. As soon as his cultivation base recovered, the black-robed old man immediately returned to Rich Light Ocean Span, searching for traces of Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing. A few days ago he had arrived at Gemstone Islands and heard the news of Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing flying south. Thus he chased after them. I didn't expect this kid to be able to kill even Dark Light King. His ability is not small. However, he can forget about escaping from me no matter how powerful he is. The black-robed old man sneered. Swish. The black-robed old man broke through space and flew in the void. Every 10,000 miles he would come out and release his boundless soul force. Everything within a 10,000-mile radius was under his control. Not even the slightest movement of a blade of grass could escape his senses. After half a day, the black-robed old man creased his brows. Could it be that they changed their direction? Or did they fly south without stopping? Every time he appeared, he would be 100,000 li away, which was hundreds of times faster than a half-step king's flying speed. Half a day was equivalent to 200 days of searching for half-step kings. If he couldn't find them, there could only be two reasons. One was that they had changed their direction, and the other was that they were still ahead. I don't believe you can escape to anywhere. Blah. The black-robed old man once again shattered the space and disappeared. I've finally forged a supreme mid-grade sword. Inside the volcano, Yi Chen was holding a golden sword and carefully examining it. This sword's hilt was purple gold, and its body was slender and golden. On both sides of the sword's ridge, exquisite patterns spread out, giving the sword a trace of nobility and sharpness. It was as if a great general had personally arrived on the battlefield, brimming with a king's aura and killing intent. Swoosh. Holding the sword, Yi Chen slashed at the lava lake in front of him, creating a few meters deep and 1 foot wide gully. The sword chi's remaining power did not dissipate as it unexpectedly broke through the volcano's wall and rushed out of the volcano. The sharp sword light seemed indestructible. As I expected, this sword's power is already equivalent to a mid-grade high-grade sword. The golden sword contained the immortal sword intent, which made the sword's body sturdier than any mid-grade sword, capable of clashing head-on with a high-grade sword. Meanwhile, the sword chi was indestructible and extremely hard to destroy. This was the power of the immortal sword intent. The destruction sword intent focused on destructive power, while the immortal sword intent focused on the body's tenacity. Just like Yi Chen, the destruction sword intent focused on killing while the immortal sword intent focused on suppressing the body. One inside and one outside, perfectly coordinated. Next, I'll focus on raising the quality of the mid-grade sword. I'll try to increase the success rate of forging a supreme mid-grade sword to over 30%. Currently, Yi Chen had 30% chance of forging a mid-grade sword, 40% chance of forging a high-grade sword, and less than 10% chance of forging a supreme grade sword. This was the only successful sword and also the one that Yi Chen was most satisfied with. I'll call you Army Destroyer. Extending his right index finger, Yi Chen carved 2 ancient characters on the sword. With his half-step king-level cultivation and 2 great sword intents, carving words on a mid-grade sword was as easy as eating or drinking. Moreover, under his control, this kind of carving would not damage the sword's quality. And Army Destroyer was the first sword he had named after. Casually throwing Army Destroyer into his storage ring, Yi Chen continued forging mid-grade swords. He planned to leave Volcano Island with Murong Qingqing after learning mid-grade sword forging art to perfection. After all, he couldn't stay here forever. As for sword forging art, he could continue learning it after reaching his destination. 2 days passed in a flash. Yi Chen had successfully forged 2 supreme-grade mid-grade swords, with a success rate of nearly 20%. Of these 2 swords, one was of the Thunder attribute, containing the Destruction sword intent, and the other was of the Water attribute, containing the Immortal sword intent. The might of the Thunder attribute had already surpassed the Army Destroyer, while the Water attribute was slightly inferior. Why do I have a bad premonition? Suddenly Yi Chen raised his head. The sky outside the volcano was only the size of a wash basin. White clouds were slowly drifting and a light breeze was blowing. Tens of thousands of li away, a black-robed old man appeared from the void. As usual, he released his soul power, covering the surrounding 100,000 li. However, the black-robed old man didn't have much hope. Soundlessly, his soul power swept across the volcanic island tens of thousands of miles away. Haha. Suddenly, the black-robed old man laughed heartily. Two people lived on the island, a man and a woman. Who else could they be if not Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing? Let's see where you can run this time. The black-robed old man tore open the space and entered the void. Not good. It's a life and death king. Inside the volcano, Yi Chen's expression changed drastically. His soul power was at the same level as a life and death king. Sensing the black-robed old man's soul power, Yi Chen also sensed the existence of this soul power. The silver vertical eye on his forehead that had just opened closed. At this moment there was no need to use his soul eye. The newcomer was clearly a life and death king, and 80% likely didn't come with good intentions. Rumble. A huge hole appeared on the volcano and Yi Chen flew out. Murong, run. Yi Chen shouted at Murong Qingqing, who was not far away. Run. Seeing Yi Chen's grave expression, Murong Qingqing's heart skipped a beat. Something that could make Yi Chen's expression change couldn't be anything good. Demonic chi surged as a pair of huge black bat wings unfolded behind Murong Qingqing. Her figure flickered as she tore through the sky, and Yi Chen followed behind her. You think you can run? The island's weather changed. Unknowingly, a revolving energy barrier had covered the entire island like an upside-down bowl. Murong Qingqing's fist landed on the energy barrier, stirring up ripples, but was unable to break it open. Bewitching mirror shattering. Unsheathing the evil vanquishing sword, Yi Chen used all of his trump cards and forcefully slammed them on the energy barrier. Bewitching mirror shattering contained space profound, and had the innate property of breaking through barriers. It unexpectedly distorted the energy barrier, creating a faintly discernible gap. Just as the two were about to rush out, you actually know space profound sword moves. The black-robed old man was startled. Regardless of whether he admitted it or not, he couldn't compare to Yi Chen in terms of profound martial skills. What a pity it's futile. The black-robed old man made a grabbing motion in the void, and the distorted energy barrier mended, rapidly strengthening to a meter thick. Chapter 8:17. Yi Chen forcibly suppressed the urge to take out the Sky Scorpio sword. At this moment, the black-robed elder was already approaching. Even if he took out the sword and broke the energy cover, he wouldn't be able to escape from the black-robed elder's control. Therefore it would be better to wait and see before making a decision. Otherwise, a single Sky Scorpio sword could bring about too many variables. Most importantly, compared to the evil shattering sword, the Sky Scorpio sword consumed several times more Zhen Yuan. One sword strike would probably drain his Zhen Yuan, which was tantamount to seeking his own death. Turning around, Yi Chen's face darkened. What business do you have with us, sir? The black-robed elder slowly walked over and said with a creepy smile, Two things: take her away and kill you. You really want a life and death struggle? Circulating the green lotus sword arts, Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan accumulated to the extreme. The destruction sword soul and immortal sword soul in his sea of soul trembled unceasingly, as if they would fly out at any moment. The black-robed elder was a demonic human king, and his battle power was inestimable. Yi Chen had to push his battle power to the limit or even surpass it, to have a chance to contend against him. A life and death struggle? You think you're qualified? Stopping dozens of li away, the black-robed elder said disdainfully. Step back a bit. Yi Chen knew that this battle was unavoidable, and it would probably be the most dangerous one since his debut. Tilting his head, he told Murong Qingqing to step back dozens of li to avoid being injured by the shockwaves of the battle. If there was a chance, he would escape first. Be careful. Pursing her lips, Murong Qingqing obediently stepped back. However, it was impossible for her to escape by herself. But now was not the time to distract Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded, and his eyes moved back to the black-robed elder. Seems like you won't give up without a fight? The black-robed elder said. Yi Chen said, I, Yi Chen, have never given up without a fight. Not this time and not in the future. If you want my life, come. While speaking, he took out 10 supreme clear pills and put them in his mouth. At this critical moment, he needed supreme clear pills to recover his Zhen Yuan. The black-robed old man was confident of his victory, so he didn't try to stop him. Are you ready? His voice became sharp. Bring it on. Haha, go to hell. From dozens of miles away, the black-robed elder threw out a palm attack towards Yi Chen. This palm attack did not use any profound sense martial arts. It was just pure Zhen Yuan palm energy. However, the palm energy that had been thrown out by the human demon king was horrifying to the extreme. Once the palm attack was thrown out, the clouds in the sky sped up 100 times faster than before. The seawater was split into two, creating a miraculous deep ditch. As for the volcanic island, half of it was destroyed by the palm attack, while the other half was on the elder's side. The shattered pieces did not scatter in all directions. Instead, they floated in the air motionless. It turned out that the black-robed old man's palm strike had turned the area within 1,000 li into a vacuum. At the same time, the sky darkened completely. Demonic chi surged as if doomsday had arrived. However, this alone was not enough to make Yi Chen's expression change. What truly caused his expression to change was that the space in front of him had shattered into thousands of pieces like a mirror. This was a strengthened version of bewitching mirror shattering, and its might was more than doubled. Waning moon? Don't take it as a joke. Yi Chen roared, and a cyan chi flow spread out with him as the center. In the next moment, a boundless sword domain covered hundreds of li. Numerous cyan swords condensed and shot out, facing the incoming attack. It's sword domain. The black-robed old man's mind turned at lightning speed. Among life and death sword kings, there were not more than 3 who possessed sword domain. He only knew one. Sword domain's might was vast, combining defense, suppression, and offense. If a life and death sword king enveloped him with sword domain, the black-robed old man's only thought would be to escape. He would run as fast and as far as he could. If he couldn't escape, he would be tortured to death without any hope. Unfortunately, Yi Chen's sword domain was merely in embryonic form, and his cultivation base was a whole realm lower than the black-robed old man's. Not to mention embryonic form, even if Yi Chen had grasped the true sword domain, he wouldn't be afraid. The reason he was astonished was because Yi Chen had grasped sword domain too early, surpassing common sense. Sword domain alone was not enough. Yi Chen brandished the evil vanquishing sword, and the strongest sword move, bewitching mirror shattering, accompanied by a cyan sword rain, shot out. Ding 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 ding, kacha kacha kacha. Ping ping ping. Countless clashing noises were heard as a galaxy seemed to have appeared between Yi Chen and the black-robed old man. Within the galaxy, the sword light was bright and dazzling. Transparent cracks spread out in all directions, seeming like the sharpest godly blade. Wherever it passed, everything would be destroyed. In the end, all the energy shattered into energy streams, and a huge black blurry hand pierced through the colorful energy streams and slammed into Yi Chen's protective Zhen Yuan. Yi Chen spurted out a mouthful of blood. His protective Zhen Yuan, which had been reinforced by the pseudo-extreme grade bronze armor, couldn't even withstand a single blow. The hazy palm imprint landed on his chest. Immediately, a majestic power passed through the armor and into his body. At this moment, he felt as if his internal organs were about to shatter. His chest seemed to have caved in and his back was protruding out. So powerful. Too powerful. The reason why Yi Chen didn't die was because of the bronze armor, the dragon bone layer covering his skin, and the undying body, which gave him a tenacious life force. Even so, the black-robed old man's weakened palm still nearly tore him into pieces. Yi Chen had finally experienced the might of a demonic human king. The gap between the two could no longer be calculated with logic. They were not on the same level at all. Gulp. Swallowing a supreme clear pellet, he took out a handful of Yuan Qi replenishing upper-grade pellets from his storage ring and stuffed them all into his mouth, then swallowed them all. Impossible. He didn't die. The black-robed old man was greatly surprised. How powerful a life and death king was. As long as one knew they could shatter the void, it would be enough. Although his palm strike had been mostly neutralized by Yi Chen's sword domain and bewitching mirror shattering, the remaining power was still enough to easily kill a strongest, half-step king, even if the latter was wearing a pseudo-extreme grade artifact. Not bad. I have to have a whole new level of respect for you. The black-robed old man stood with his hands clasped behind his back, a trace of graveness in his eyes. Given time, when Yi Chen entered life and death realm, he would become a frightening enemy. Since he was an enemy, he would have to cut the weeds and remove the roots. Otherwise, the consequences would be unbearable. Yi Chen's body was stooped, and his aura was extremely weak. He seemed like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any moment. However, his eyes were extremely bright as they fixedly stared at the black-robed old man. Inside his body, the Yuan Qi of the pellets was surging. Under the operation of the undying body, it was rapidly nourishing his body and restoring his vitality. Seeing Yi Chen's aura rising, showing signs of recovering to his peak, the black-robed old man's expression changed. What was he seeing? A mere half-step king had actually comprehended the undying body. This was an ability only life and death kings possessed, and it was one of the symbols of life and death kings. No, it still hasn't reached the level of broken limb rebirth. The black-robed old man's undying body was the first realm of broken limb rebirth, so he naturally knew the mysteries of broken limb rebirth. Although the recovery speed of Yi Chen's undying body was far inferior to broken limb rebirth, it still couldn't be underestimated. After all, such a heavy injury had been recovered by 70 to 80%. Let's see how many palms you can take. Without using any profound martial skill, the black-robed old man extended his right hand, intending to strike at Yi Chen. He believed that this palm strike could absolutely kill the latter. It should be known that the latter had been injured so heavily by him even at his peak, and had yet to recover. Demonic Fist. Abruptly, the bat wings on Murong Qingqing's back blossomed with a dazzling black radiance. With a flap of the bat wings, Murong Qingqing's speed rose to an unprecedented limit. In less than 1/100th of a blink, she arrived above the black-robed old man and punched down. This punch was like a small shining black sun, indestructible and indestructible. It was unknown if the black-robed old man couldn't react in time or if he didn't care, but he actually let Murong Qingqing's punch hit him. Boom. When the fist was 3 feet away from the black-robed old man, a layer of black qi blocked Murong Qingqing's fist, and a ferocious qi burst out, soaring into the sky. Pop. The qi wall shattered and Murong Qingqing was sent flying. The black-robed old man laughed. Worthy of the perfect demonic human bloodline, you have so many secrets. Your punch just now contained an impure king-level demonic power, otherwise it would have been impossible to break my true Yuan Qi wall. Good, the more potential you have, the more secrets you have, the more benefits my demonic human clan will have. Even a punch containing demonic power essence couldn't touch him? Murong Qingqing's face revealed a trace of bitterness. The demonic power essence in her body came from the demonic beast kings in the parallel space battlefield, and its purity was equivalent to king-level demonic power. As she entered the half-step king realm, the diluted demonic power essence was also close to king-level demonic power. Combined with the demonic power fist, Murong Qingqing originally thought she could slightly threaten the black-robed old man. However, the latter's strength was completely beyond her expectations. In other words, she had never truly understood the strength of life and death kings or demonic human kings. She had merely made some guesses. 6-way sky ceiling array. Withdrawing his smile, the black-robed old man threw out 6 crystal pillars, which pierced through the void and landed around Murong Qingqing. In the next moment, a large number of crystal light screens exploded, interconnecting and forming a sealed crystal space. Murong Qingqing was trapped inside, floating in the air. You can have a good rest inside. After I kill him, I'll bring you back. The black-robed old man no longer looked at Murong Qingqing, and his gaze fell on Yi Chen. Yi Chen's injuries had already completely recovered, and his aura was like a beacon. A year ago, his undying body had already faintly touched upon the second realm, limb regrowth. His recovery speed was much faster than before. Admittedly, the black-robed old man's palm had left him on the verge of death, but as long as his body wasn't destroyed, his recovery would be quick. Of course, the initial stage of the undying body had its limits. He didn't dare to be sure how many strikes he could endure. I can't take a second strike. Yi Chen glanced at Murong Qingqing, who was trapped in the crystal space, and a resolute light flickered in his eyes. His storage ring flickered with a dim light, and a peerless sword with a boundless might appeared in Yi Chen's hand. Without unsheathing the sword, a world-slaughtering sword qi spread out, engulfing the surroundings. With the Sky Scorpio sword in hand, Yi Chen's aura rose again and again as if there was no limit. At this moment, he seemed to be able to contend against the black-robed old man. Chapter 8:18. Off. Being hit by the seemingly tangible sword qi, the black-robed old man's pupils suddenly shrank, turning into 2 dots. Extreme grade sword. That's right, it's an extreme grade sword. Only an extreme grade sword can have this kind of might. Moreover, it's not an ordinary extreme grade sword. Its sword qi is so powerful. The black-robed old man's heartbeat sped up. Although he didn't use swords, it didn't stop him from using them as a means of attack. Taking a step back with this extreme grade sword, he could trade with other life and death kings for things he wanted. Kid, hand over the sword and I'll leave your corpse intact. The black-robed old man sucked in a deep breath and said in a sinister tone. If you want it, you'll have to ask it first. Yi Chen held up the sword with both of his hands, and a beam of purple light shot out. The surrounding surreal space was illuminated by the purple light, and countless tiny purple crystal grains started to condense. Although these crystal grains were mostly purple in color, there were some differences as well. Some were purple-red, some were purple-yellow, some were purple-green, and some were purple-gold. Obviously, these were the crystallization of different elements of natural yuan qi. It's one of the top 10 miraculous metals, purple crystal iron. Seeing the mystical aspect of the Sky Scorpio sword, the black-robed old man couldn't restrain his palpitating heart. Purple crystal iron was extremely hard to find. An extreme-grade sword containing purple crystal iron would increase its value by at least 30%. Let go. The black-robed old man's body was like a ghost as he rapidly approached Yi Chen. His pair of powerful hands emitting a black metallic luster attempted to snatch the Sky Scorpio sword from Yi Chen's hand. Ding. The black-robed old man's speed was too fast. Yi Chen closed his eyes and, relying on his soul power and intuition, slashed at the void, clashing with the opponent's palm. Spiritual sword. The Sky Scorpio sword had clearly struck a solid object, but at the same time, a majestic power passed through the sword and into Yi Chen's body. Swish. Holding the Sky Scorpio sword, Yi Chen shot out in the air, creating a purple-black shockwave in front of him. The black-clothed old man didn't move from his original position. He wasn't pushed back, but there was a faint blood stain on his palm. On the surface of the blood stain, thin purple crystals spread out, wanting to cover his palm. Within the blood stain, crystals were also seeping in. Crack. A powerful Zhen Yuan poured into his palm, shattering the crystal and shaking it off. The black-robed old man licked his lips. What a powerful crystallization power. It can actually threaten me. If Yi Chen were not at mid-half-step king warrior level, but at the first or second level of life and death challenge, the black-robed elder might not be able to easily shake out the crystallized power. This power was too strange, it seemed like it could crystallize anything. After being pushed back dozens of li, Yi Chen's arms were aching. The human demon king was too powerful. Even through the Sky Scorpio sword, his arms were still under enormous pressure. If it were the evil vanquishing sword, his arms would have been broken by now. Unfortunately, you don't deserve such a treasured sword. The black-robed old man attacked once again. This time, his movement art had already surpassed the realm of phantoms. As for why he didn't meet force with force and kill Yi Chen directly, no one knew. Perhaps he wanted to snatch the Sky Scorpio sword before killing Yi Chen, or perhaps he was playing a cat-and-mouse game. 1 turned into 10, 10 turned into 100, and 100 turned into 1,000. In the void, the black-robed old man's silhouette flickered incessantly. Under his influence, the sky seemed to be covered by a black curtain, and the old man's silhouette moved wantonly within this black curtain. Soul eye open. Yi Chen's soul power could no longer keep up with the black-robed old man's movements. In his perception, black-robed old men were everywhere. As the silver vertical eye opened, Yi Chen once again closed his eyes, replacing them with the silver vertical eye. What the silver vertical eye saw was a silver world. In this silver world, the black-robed old man's speed slowed down, until it finally reached the level that Yi Chen could react to. At this moment, Yi Chen felt like he was watching a movie, except that the people in the movie could come and kill him at any time. Oh, another new ability. The black-robed old man had seen too many miracles on Yi Chen. Sword domain, Sky Scorpio sword, soul eye. He really wanted to know what other trump cards Yi Chen could take out in this desperate situation. This was also the reason why he didn't directly kill Yi Chen. In his eyes, the Sky Scorpio sword was already in the bag. How could a cooked duck fly? If it could fly, then it wasn't a cooked duck. Without a sound, the black-robed old man appeared in front of Yi Chen, his claw reaching out. I've been waiting for you. Although Yi Chen's attacking speed wasn't as fast as the black-robed old man, he had the soul eye, which allowed him to see through the black-robed old man's movements one step ahead. When the opponent approached, Yi Chen was already prepared, slashing out with his sword. This sword was Waning Moon, the Waning Moon performed by the Sky Scorpio sword. The purple-black crescent-shaped sword energy was like an extremely thin crystal. As it collided with the black-robed old man's palm, a large amount of purple crystals exploded, as if a crystal firework had been set off. Amidst the fireworks, the two rapidly retreated. Heavily gasping for air, Yi Chen hurriedly swallowed 3 upper clarity pills. From the start of the battle until now, Yi Chen hadn't stopped swallowing pellets. Of the 10 upper clarity pills, only 2 were left. This was also the reason why he could use the Sky Scorpio sword twice in a row. Feeling the Zhen Yuan within his body rapidly recovering, Yi Chen's silver vertical eye unwaveringly stared at the black-robed old man, not daring to relax in the slightest. Dozens of li away, more than half of the black-robed old man's protective Zhenyuan had been crystallized. His right hand and right arm were also covered in a layer of purple crystals. They were fragmented but carried a frightening destructive power. Even if the opponent was a demonic human king, he would still be affected. It's indeed a powerful supreme-grade sword. The black-robed old man didn't seem to care. With a shake of his body, countless purple crystals were shattered. The crystallized power couldn't enter his body at all. This was the gap between their cultivation bases, which couldn't be made up for. Not even the supreme-grade sword could. Still not enough? Yi Chen's brows creased. This was the first time he felt such hopeless despair. Even when he was still at Clasping Yuan Realm and encountered Taoist Jin Huang of Floating Mountain, he didn't feel such despair. This kind of despair didn't only come from his soul, but also from his battle intent. Even if there's no hope, I'll create it. The negative emotions were instantly destroyed. Yi Chen's gaze turned sharper, as if he had broken through a new boundary. With one more step he would reach a new peak. You still haven't given up? That's good. It won't be fun if you give up too early. As a demonic human king, the black-robed old man didn't feel happy about killing a lower realm martial artist. It was like stepping on an ant. Who would care? If the ant was special, wouldn't it be less fun to step on it? Bewitching mirror shattering. As the black-robed old man spoke, Yi Chen took the initiative to attack. With a swing of his sword, the void was dyed purple and began to distort rapidly. In the next moment, the black-robed old man seemed to be sealed in another world. If the previous bewitching mirror shattering looked like a mirror, then this time, under the sky Scorpio sword, looked like a huge purple crystal screen. Break! Yi Chen let out a low roar as his Zhenyuan was completely drained by the sky Scorpio sword. With a loud bang, the purple crystal screen shattered, and the black-robed old man inside was also shattered into millions of pieces, turning into a light rain that scattered in all directions. Something's wrong. Swallowing the last two upper cleansing pellets, Yi Chen rapidly retreated. Rumble. The place where Yi Chen was originally at caved in, and a huge hole appeared in the space. The edge of the hole was filled with cracks like glass. Unknowingly, the black-robed old man had already escaped from the bewitching mirror shattering, and instantly approached. If you were a member of my demonic human clan, how great would it be? To be honest, the black-robed old man had never met such an outstanding genius like Yi Chen. Whether it was profound sense martial arts, sword will, innate ability, battle skills, or instant reaction, they were all out of this world. Although the two perfect demonic humans in their clan were also outstanding, it was only their bloodline that was outstanding. In terms of innate talent and comprehension, they were far inferior to Yi Chen. The bewitching mirror shattering actually couldn't lock onto him. In the distance, Yi Chen's complexion was extremely unsightly. Clearly the scene just now was an illusion. The black-robed old man simply wasn't sealed in the purple crystal screen. He reckoned that he had already shattered the void a moment ago. Although the bewitching mirror shattering could also affect the depths of the void with the amplification of the sky Scorpio sword, it was clearly much weaker and couldn't do anything to the black-robed old man. It could be said that the gap between life and death kings and half-step kings was not only in terms of cultivation base, but also in the void shattering. Unfortunately, you're not a member of my clan. The black-robed old man's expression suddenly turned gloomy, and his killing intent surged. At this moment he had decided to kill Yi Chen, because the latter couldn't possibly have any trump cards left. Looking at the black-robed old man brimming with killing intent, Yi Chen's expression strangely relaxed. The Zhenyuan in his body had more or less recovered after being dissolved by the two upper cleansing pellets. Then he unblocked the Dragon God metal, and a large amount of Zhenyuan flowed into his body, instantly recovering 90%. I indeed can't defeat you, but it can. The storage ring flickered with a dim light, and an ink painting appeared in Yi Chen's left hand. The painting unfolded and fluttered in the wind. This is? The black-robed old man's gaze fell on the painting in Yi Chen's hand. It was a painting of a person standing on a mountain peak, gazing into the distance. One could only see his back, majestic and elegant. Holding one end of the painting, Yi Chen operated his Zhenyuan and poured it into the painting. Buzz. A strange scene happened. As Yi Chen poured in his Zhenyuan, the painting came to life. The mountain peak turned solid, and the view in the distance was deep and vast. The grass and trees were deep and serene. Meanwhile, the back of the figure on the mountain peak started to flutter in the wind, as if there was a wind blowing out of the painting. The figure turned around. His face was indistinct, but his eyes strangely shone, as if he could see through the entire world and land on the black-robed old man's body. Thump. The black-robed old man's heart skipped a beat. Not only did the opponent's gaze penetrate the painting and land on him, it even brought him a strange pressure. Chapter 8:19. Now that you've brought out this painting, you'll have to resolve the future crisis of True Water Palace ruins. Staring at the black-robed old man, the person in the painting said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen sucked in a deep breath and asked, "Senior, what does the crisis of True Water Palace ruins represent? Is it the resurrection of the dead?" If only it were that simple. The person in the painting sighed. "Senior, who are you?" Yi Chen boldly asked. "Yuan Songhai." "Yuan Songhai? Why does this name sound so familiar?" The black-robed old man's face revealed a bitter expression. Suddenly, his expression changed as he cried out in alarm, "Yuan Emperor, Yuan Songhai? You're Yuan Emperor?" "Yuan Emperor?" Yi Chen was also startled. The last person to leave an imprint on the Emperor's scar stele was Yuan Emperor. Yuan Emperor had an innate physique, and his Zhen Yuan could be said to be boundless. If the person in the painting was truly Yuan Emperor, it would be too outrageous. The person in the painting faintly smiled. "Turns out there's still someone who remembers my name." The words of the man in the picture undoubtedly told Yi Chen and the black-robed old man that he was the last titled monarch of True Spirit Continent or True Spirit World who could leave his imprint on Emperor's scar stele, Yuan Emperor. "Senior, rest assured. If I have the ability, Yi Chen is willing to resolve the crisis of True Water Palace ruins. If I don't, then Senior has misjudged me," Yi Chen solemnly said. "Misjudged me? Yi, you're quite honest." Yuan Emperor smiled. The black-robed old man's expression changed several times. Ultimately, his expression turned sinister. "Even if you're Yuan Emperor, so what? The real Yuan Emperor is already dead. You're nothing but a projection left behind by him. You think you can defeat me with your projection? Why don't you try?" The Yuan Emperor stepped out of the painting and appeared in the real world. The ink marks on his body gradually faded away. At first glance, he didn't look any different from a real person. However, when he used his soul power to sense, he found that this body was a bit blurry and illusory. "I'll give it a try. Watch me blow you up." Magic Mark Annihilation. When fighting with Yi Chen, the black-robed old man did not use any profound martial arts, but the image of the Yuan Emperor was different. Before knowing the opponent's strength, it was better to be more serious. Otherwise, if he was careless and suffered a great loss, it would not be worth it. With a palm strike, a dark crack appeared in the void. It was like a brand that was about to be branded on the body of the Yuan Emperor. It was overbearing and powerful, and there was no way to dodge it. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. If the black-robed old man had used a profound martial skill before, even with the Sky Scorpio sword, he wouldn't have been able to block it. The gap was too big. Profound is too low. The projection of Yuan Emperor shook his head, pointed a finger at the dark crack and then casually wiped it. The dark crack vanished like smoke in thin air, as if it had never existed. "Damn it! Demonic Tao River." The black-robed old man roared and pushed his Zhen Yuan to the limit. His whole body emitted a dazzling black crystal light as he stretched out both of his hands, pushing toward the projection of Yuan Emperor. It was as if he was pushing a huge millstone, wanting to grind the projection of Yuan Emperor alive. Demon's martial skill? Watching the black river surging over and collapsing the space, the projection of Yuan Emperor's expression was indifferent as he punched out. Bang! The black river exploded and black splashes filled the sky. It was as if a huge fountain had erupted between the two of them. The might of the fist of Yuan Emperor's projection had already reached an extreme level, shocking the ancients and dazzling the contemporaries. Impossible. How can a projection be so powerful? The black-robed old man was blasted away, gliding in the void for dozens of li before stabilizing his body. "You're too weak. Low-grade martial skill, low-grade martial will. Is this the level of life and death kings?" The projection of Yuan Emperor stood with his hands clasped behind his back and said indifferently, "Don't be too arrogant. Your era has long passed." The black-robed old man's long hair fluttered in the air as strange black patterns appeared on both of his hands, covering his entire palms. As the black patterns took shape, his aura abruptly soared. The frightening Zhen Yuan ripple caused the space to tremble and cracks to appear everywhere. "I've already refined the supreme grade gloves into my body. Not bad." Raising his brows, the projection of Yuan Emperor nodded. Die. The black-robed old man didn't care who the opponent was. As long as they obstructed him, they would die. he thrust out his palm, and an even deeper black crack imprinted itself on the projection of Yuan Emperor. It was precisely demonic marked destruction. The projection of Yuan Emperor's expression didn't change. His figure flickered, and the space seemed to disappear as he retreated 10 li. The black crack didn't imprint itself on the projection of Yuan Emperor. It merely remained in the void, not dispersing for a long time. Such means such a movement. This was the first time Yi Qin saw two life and death kings exchanging blows. The methods of the black-robed old man astonished him. He could actually leave a mark in the void that didn't disperse for a long time. If this mark was imprinted on a person's body, would they be tortured to death? On the other hand, Yuan Emperor's movement was simply unfathomable. His movement seemed to have already dispelled the boundaries of the void, making it impossible for the black-robed old man to lock onto him. The black-robed old man was 100 times more astonished than Yi Qin. He was extremely clear on the might of demonic scar annihilation. This kind of move could only be resisted head-on, and couldn't be evaded. As long as the black crack locked onto one's life aura, it wouldn't stop until one died. Even if one hid in the void, it wouldn't work. Previously, when Yuan Emperor's projection destroyed the black crack with a finger, he could still accept it, because demonic scar annihilation could be destroyed. But now, the projection of Yuan Emperor had actually evaded it, causing it to lose its target and imprint itself in the void. This body of mine has limited energy. I won't bother with you anymore. Sword come. Yuan Emperor's projection, who had retreated 10 li away, waved his hand. The evil vanquishing sword on Yi Chen's waist automatically unsheathed and landed in the hand of Yuan Emperor's projection. Yi Chen didn't even have time to react. You want the evil vanquishing sword? Yi Chen didn't understand. According to reason, the Sky Scorpio sword was more powerful than the evil vanquishing sword. With the Sky Scorpio sword in hand, Yuan Emperor's projection could easily kill the black-robed old man. Yuan Emperor's projection seemed to know Yi Chen's thoughts and said, "The evil vanquishing sword contains the power of evil vanquishing, and is targeted at demonic humans. Moreover, that supreme grade sword of yours consumes too much Zhen Yuan. With my current body I can't bear too much. Moreover, the evil vanquishing sword is enough for me." So that's how it is. Yi Chen nodded. This was Yuan Emperor's projection, not Yuan Emperor himself. He didn't have nearly inexhaustible Zhen Yuan. His energy was limited, and it would naturally be best if he could consume as little as possible. Void Yuan chop. Holding the evil vanquishing sword, Yuan Emperor's projection's gaze turned sharp. With a wave of his hand, the evil vanquishing sword shot out an invisible sword chi, chopping towards the black-robed old man's body. The black-robed old man roared. He couldn't even sense the trajectory of this sword, but his intuition told him that if he was hit by this sword head-on, he would definitely die. Devil flash. His body flickered. The black-robed old man's body flickered like a flickering star. Puchi. The invisible sword chi chopped on the black-robed old man's illusory body, but it seemed to have missed. However, Yi Chen didn't think so because blood splashed and a faint groan could be heard. Just as he expected, the illusory body shattered and a real arm fell off. It was crushed into a bloody mist by the sword chi, then disappeared into nothingness. In the distance, the black-robed old man's body appeared. His face was pale, and his right arm had already disappeared, looking extremely uncoordinated. What? Why did I get hit? The black-robed old man was shocked. The devil flash was also a martial art of the demons. Although the demon's martial art didn't require one to cultivate profound, in fact, the devil flash still contained the power of space. It was just that the form was different from the space profound, but the essence was no different. He thought that by using the devil flash he would be able to escape, but his right arm was still chopped off. Yuan Emperor curled his lips. You're lucky. My current strength is far from the real me, and the void Yuan chop is my weakest move. Other martial arts consume too much energy. Yi Chen was dumbfounded. The strength of the Yuan Emperor's projection was definitely far from the Yuan Emperor's. The gap was huge and the void Yuan chop was his weakest move. Even so, the black-robed old man, who was a demonic human king, couldn't withstand a single blow from him. From this, it could be inferred how powerful the real Yuan Emperor was. However, I've already seen through your movement trajectory. This time I'll destroy you. The Yuan Emperor's projection raised the evil vanquishing sword for the second time, and lightly chopped. No. The black-robed old man fled in terror, falling into the void. But under the pursuit of the void Yuan chop, the space boundary became transparent. Yi Chen could even see the black-robed old man fleeing in the void. His expression was one of terror, wishing that his parents had given him an extra pair of legs. Such power worthy of being the Yuan emperor who shook the world in the past. At this time, countless black petals fell from the void. These petals were only the size of copper coins, and they had clear lines and a soft texture. They were no different from real petals. These black petals were endless, falling from the sky like a rain of petals. And this rain of petals ignored the existence of the boundaries of space, falling into the outside world and then continuing to fall. The moment they touched the ground, they turned from solid to illusory, vanishing. Behind the black-robed old man, flower petals gushed out, and a beautiful woman wearing a gorgeous black robe suddenly appeared. This woman was extremely tall, and her eyes were a faint red. Her towering breasts were just right. She rubbed her right hand and an invisible force surged out, then she waved it to the side. The invisible sword chi turned around and disappeared into the depths of the void. Great Patriarch. Hearing this voice, the black-robed old man's tense nerves relaxed, and a joyful expression flashed across his face. Then, he turned around and respectfully saluted the black-robed woman. The chaotic demon sees Great Patriarch, isn't he the demonic human emperor? Yichen secretly cursed. The demonic human tribe was divided into clans. Generally, the patriarch of a clan was the patriarch. Only the patriarch of the entire clan was called the Great Patriarch. Oh, a strong one came. Kid, you've offended a lot of people. The Yuan Emperor's projection frowned, looking helplessly at Yichen. Yichen smiled wryly, what will come, I can't avoid it. Obviously the other side came for Murong Qingqing. A mere demonic human emperor wasn't worthy of coming personally. Chapter 820. Is that the perfect demonic human bloodline you spoke of? The black-robed woman looked at Murong Qingqing in the crystal space. Indeed, and she cultivates pure demonic power. The black-robed old man operated his undying body as he spoke, recovering his severed right arm. As his flesh wriggled, his right arm instantly grew back. As it appeared, his entire aura dropped. Clearly, the sword strike from Yuan Emperor's projection had destroyed a lot of his cultivation base. Sizing up the bat wings on Murong Qingqing's back, the black-robed woman nodded. She actually awakened the speed talent. Not bad, not bad. Great clan leader, should we kill them? The black-robed old man looked at Yuan Emperor's projection and Yichen with overflowing killing intent. Just now he had almost lost his life. You don't need to care about this matter. Moreover, you're too careless. The black-robed woman waved her hand, and a white thread was pulled out of the black-robed old man's body. This thread contained an extremely tyrannical purifying power. Its aura wasn't obvious, so it was hidden in the black-robed old man's body without being discovered. Evil vanquishing power. The black-robed old man was startled. Although this thing wouldn't kill him, it would reduce his cultivation base to a fundamental level, making it impossible for him to recover. Even more frightening was that if this evil vanquishing power suddenly erupted in his weakened state, even if he didn't die, he would suffer a cultivation deviation. Crack. The black-robed woman rubbed her fingers, and the silk-like evil vanquishing power was obliterated into nothingness. Her gaze fell on Yuan Emperor's projection and said, a projection can't have such a powerful battle strength. If my guess is correct, you must have sealed a portion of your Zhen Yuan in that spirit accumulation scroll. Only then would you have the strength to surpass ordinary life and death kings. Good insight. Yuan Emperor's projection faintly smiled. I wouldn't dare. At my level, I'm bound to have some insight. Walking out of the void, the black-robed woman stopped a dozen li away, and the black-robed old man followed behind her. You're here for this kid's girlfriend. Yuan Emperor could tell from the image that Murong Qingqing in the crystal space was also a demonic human, and she was a perfect demonic human with a noble bloodline. He thought that Murong Qingqing was kidnapped by Yichen, and then his people chased after her. Not bad. The black-robed woman nodded. Yuan Emperor's projection smiled and said, I would rather tear down 10 temples than destroy a marriage. This child is so outstanding, he is more than qualified to be your demonic human race's son-in-law. There is no need to kill him and do such a shady thing. The black-robed woman said, that's where you're wrong. Before this I didn't know them. I just didn't want a perfect demonic human bloodline to wander outside and waste a heavenly treasure. So it turns out that he saw a good seedling and wanted to get his hands on him. Yuan Emperor's projection suddenly understood. Exactly. Since that's the case, there's no enmity between you and this child. Not only do you want to steal his girlfriend, you even want to kill him. That's too unreasonable. Yuan Emperor's projection's eyes flickered with a cold light. The black-robed old man interrupted, killing him is because he killed many of my demonic human clansmen. If we let him go, wouldn't our clansmen have died in vain? Your demonic human clan's dead clansmen were probably not geniuses, but this boy is a peerless genius. Killing him is a waste of God's gift. Moreover, I still need him to do something, so I can't allow you to kill him. The black-robed woman sneered, Do you think you can stop me? Most likely not. Yuan Emperor's projection carefully sized up the black-robed woman, then shook his head. If I want to kill him, it's still up to me. Perhaps I might not be able to stop you, but you should know that a true monarch would have some means to steal the fortune of the world. Unfortunately, even after so many years, I still have some memories of it. I believe I can use you to test its might. You're threatening me. The black-robed woman narrowed her eyes, exuding a dangerous aura. It's not a threat, just a warning. The black-robed woman remained silent, but her aura became more and more dangerous, as if she would attack at any moment to kill Yuan Emperor's projection and Yi Chen. Oh. Letting out a breath, the dangerous aura around the black-robed woman dissipated. She said with a faint smile, Interesting, looks like you've got me for sure. Maybe I'm lying to you. You can give it a try. The black-robed old man was badly beaten by Yuan Emperor's projection, almost dying. He said to the black-robed woman, Grand Patriarch, he must be strong on the outside but weak on the inside. With your strength, there's no need to be afraid of him. Even if he's still alive, he might not be able to do anything to you. Shut up. The black-robed woman glared at the black-robed old man. Yes. The black-robed old man was extremely obedient in front of the black-robed woman. You win. The black-robed woman gave up on the idea of probing. As for the black-robed old man's words, she did not even consider it. If Yuan Emperor's main body hadn't died, even 3 of her wouldn't have been his match. How could an ordinary titled monarch be able to leave a mark on the Emperor's scar steel? And the current Yuan Emperor's projection looked extremely weak. She had 99% confidence that she could kill him. Unfortunately, just as the Yuan Emperor's projection had said, a true titled monarch would always have some heavenly treasures. These methods were profound and unfathomable, not reflected in combat power. Once hit, even if one's strength was doubled, they might still die. There was no need for her to gamble. Her gaze fell on Yi Chen. The black-robed woman said, Don't worry, I never planned to kill you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come here personally. I don't have the ability to predict the future. She had been in seclusion all this time and was completely unaware of Murong Qingqing's matter. Only when she came out of seclusion did she learn of the news. She knew that if she wanted Murong Qingqing to willingly join the chaotic demon sea's human demon race, she couldn't kill Yi Chen. Otherwise, unless she erased his memories, he would definitely be filled with resentment. Fortunately, the human demon kings of the human demon race all carried sensory pearls. Relying on the senses of the sensory pearls, she quickly chased after Yi Chen. What happened next was what had just happened. Yi Chen's thoughts turned at lightning speed. He felt that the black-robed woman shouldn't be lying, and there was no need for her to lie. If not for the unexpected incident of the standing high sight painting, a human demon king could have easily taken away Murong Qingqing. There was no need for her to come here personally and waste her time. Perhaps. Yi Chen declined to comment. I will take her away no matter what. The black-robed woman's tone changed and she said resolutely. A helpless expression flickered on Yuan Emperor's face. Seems like there's no way to resolve this peacefully. As he spoke, 3 illusory flowers appeared above his head. 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 blue. The 3 flowers intertwined and blossomed with a mysterious radiance. You really didn't lie to me. The black-robed woman saw the reaction of Yuan Emperor's image and continued, This matter can be resolved peacefully. I have the confidence to convince him. I'll wait and see then. The 3 flowers above Yuan Emperor's image remained motionless. Glancing at the flowers above Yuan Emperor's head with apprehension, the black-robed woman let out a breath and said to Yi Chen, You've cultivated to this level, which proves that you have a great determination to climb to the peak. In the future you might even become a sword king or even a sword emperor. Thanks for the compliment. Yi Chen's expression remained unchanged as he listened to the next words. But have you ever thought that if she follows you, will she really step into life and death realm? She's a perfect demonic human, and this is an unchangeable fact. In this world, demonic chi is extremely scarce, and it's simply not suitable for cultivating demonic power. I don't know how she cultivated to half-step king realm, but I'm sure that without any earth-shattering transformation she'll never become a king. has a perfect demonic human never appeared in Elysium? Yi Chen asked. There have been, but not one in the last 10,000 years. 10,000 years ago they also needed an enormous opportunity to succeed. Moreover, each of them spent a long time and their appearances were no longer there. Yuan Emperor's image smiled bitterly. She's right. Elysium is not suitable for cultivating demonic power. Demonic power is the energy that demons cultivate, and they don't belong to this world. You can also gamble, but I'm afraid you'll regret it. Under life and death realm, one only has a lifespan of 300 years. By the time she becomes a life and death king in 100 years, or even 200 years, she'll already be an old woman. Will you still like her then? Will it be suitable for you to be together? The black-robed woman closely stared at Yi Chen. Yi Chen's expression continuously changed. In fact, he was almost convinced. Her words were exactly what he was worried about. The demonic power crystals in Murong Qingqing's body could at most allow her to reach the first layer of life and death chamber. As for demonic power essence, it was almost negligible. Moreover, breaking through to life and death realm was simply too difficult. Even human peerless geniuses didn't have much confidence in doing so, not to mention a demonic power cultivator like Murong Qingqing. Taking a step back, even if Murong Qingqing obtained a lot of demonic power crystals, it would only increase her chances by a little bit. However, her chances would still be lower than human geniuses. After all, breaking through to life and death realm required not only energy but also environment. The black-robed woman could see that Yi Chen was struggling, so she continued, she has perfect demonic human bloodline. In chaotic demonic ocean, her position is transcendent. I will wholeheartedly nurture her and make her my last disciple. Moreover, you also know that the environment of chaotic demonic ocean is extremely suitable for demonic power cultivation. In that place, her chances of entering life and death realm will not be lower than yours. Once she becomes a demonic human king, she can go anywhere under the heavens. If you're not afraid of me harming you, you can come and see her whenever you want. Dispersing his hesitation, Yi Chen solemnly nodded. All right, I agree to let her go with you. However, if you don't treat her well or harms her, as long as I don't die, I will eradicate the entire chaotic demonic ocean sooner or later, leaving not a single blade of grass behind. Good kid. The black-robed woman was both startled and furious. No one had ever dared to threaten her in front of her. Fortunately, the other party had agreed. That will never happen. You can rest assured. I'll forgive your disrespect this time, but next time you'll have to be careful. Hee hee, you've got guts. Yuan Emperor was quite appreciative of Yi Chen's character. However, you'll have to convince her. The black-robed woman waved her hand, and the crystal space sealing Murong Qingqing disappeared. Give me some time. Yi Chen's figure flickered and shot toward Murong Qingqing. An hour later, Murong Qingqing agreed. Their separation at this time was for the sake of a long reunion in the future. She was not a person who only cared about love. Moreover, if her cultivation base was low, she would only be a burden by Yi Chen's side. This was the last thing she wanted. Chapter 821. Let's go. The black-robed woman waved at Murong Qingqing with a kind attitude. Yi Chen. Murong Qingqing took a few steps forward and turned back to look at Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled and said, Go. With your talent, you can become a demonic human king in 3 to 5 years in the chaotic demonic sea. At that time, you and I can travel the universe and explore the world together. Yes. Murong Qingqing nodded and walked to the black-robed woman's side with determination. The black-robed woman showed a gratified expression. The demonic human tribe looked powerful, but they were too few in number. Compared to the entire human tribe, they were insignificant. Every bit of power meant a bit more hope of survival. She was confident that she could train Murong Qingqing to be the pillar of the demonic human tribe. Let's go. The black-robed woman waved her hand, and the black rain of flowers fell from the sky and suddenly gathered together, wrapping her and Murong Qingqing in it. Then they turned into a black light spot and disappeared. The black-robed old man glanced at Yi Chen coldly and then disappeared. Fortunately, it was settled peacefully. Otherwise, we would have been in danger. The Yuan Emperor's image said with a bitter smile. Letting out a deep breath, as if trying to drive away the bitterness of Murong Qingqing's departure, Yi Chen turned around and said respectfully to the Yuan Emperor's image, Thank you for your help, Senior. Yi Chen will never forget it. Although he didn't think that the demonic human emperor came here just to kill him, and maybe it was just as she said, to stop the black-robed old man. But no matter what, the Yuan Emperor's image did help him. The Yuan Emperor's image said, Let's not be so cliché. I'm just a tool now. I will help whoever gets it as long as he is not bad. Senior, what exactly is the danger of the True Water Palace? Can you elaborate? Yi Chen asked curiously. In ancient times, the demons and humans fought for the control of the True Water Palace. The demons lost. As far as I know, the demons are not people of this world. They come from the outer realms. Apart from the demons, there are other races that have invaded Elysium. However, because they are few in number and move stealthily, no one knows about them. The True Water Palace was destroyed by the experts of another race, and they carried out a secret plan, turning it into an ominous land. I went to explore but didn't find anything. Later on, I and the other kings sealed the entire palace and sunk it into the ocean, hoping that the later generations can find something and solve this crisis. The Yuan Emperor's image said. The demons are not people of this world? Yi Chen was quite astonished. This was the first time he had heard of such a secret. Moreover, the True Water Palace was also related to a race from the outer realms. It seemed like Elysium was not as safe as he had imagined. The races from the outer realms were eyeing this place covetously. Rest assured, Senior. As long as Yi Chen has the ability, I will certainly solve this crisis. Yi Chen said resolutely. The Yuan Emperor's image smiled. No rush. That seal can still persist for a long time. Perhaps you won't be needed, unless there is an external force to break the seal. Then I still have a long time. Yi Chen let out a sigh of relief. What he lacked was time. The Yuan Emperor's gaze fell on Yi Chen and sized him up. The Yuan Emperor's image said, I can sense that you are one of the main characters of this era. Your luck is abundant. As long as you don't die prematurely, you will become a world-shaking character sooner or later. How nostalgic. If we were born in the same era, we might even be rivals. There were only a few people that could attract the attention of the Yuan Emperor. It should be known that in his era, the Yuan Emperor could be said to have shaken the whole universe and was unrivaled. Even modern people held the Yuan Emperor in high esteem, believing that Yuan Emperor was an absolute expert among the titled monarchs of the past and present. Senior must be joking. Before reaching the level of the Yuan Emperor, Yi Chen felt that it was better to be humble. This was not the time to use his heroic spirit. The Yuan Emperor's image said, enter life and death realm as soon as possible. At that time, you will discover that the world is so vast and mysterious that you can spend your entire life exploring it without the slightest bit of boredom. I will. Yi Chen's gaze turned sharp. Alright, if there's nothing life-threatening in the future, don't use this painting. I don't have much energy left. Once my will enters the real world, it will gradually dissipate. As he spoke, the Yuan Emperor's image took a step forward and entered the painting, once again condensing into a water demon's silhouette, motionless. Many thanks. Inwardly saying this, Yi Chen rolled up the painting and stored it in his storage ring. In the void, looking at the gloomy Murong Qingqing, the black-robed woman said with a gentle voice, don't think too much. You and him will meet sooner or later. Murong Qingqing didn't speak and only faintly nodded. The black-robed woman continued, as a demonic human, you have the responsibility to protect the entire demonic human race. You should know that although our race seems calm and peaceful, it's actually filled with hidden dangers. The slightest carelessness could lead to the destruction of our entire race. Whether it's for him, for yourself, or for your family, you have to become powerful. Otherwise, you'll hate yourself for being so weak in the future. Murong Qingqing could hear the exhaustion in the black-robed woman's voice, so she asked, Senior, although our race is not favored by the human race, it's not to this extent, right? You haven't reached my level, so of course you don't know about the crisis of our race. Let me ask you, one day between demons and humans, which side would you choose? Murong Qingqing was startled. Weren't the demons annihilated? How could the demons be annihilated? They are not a race from Elysium. They come from the outer realm, a powerful race from another world. When they come to Elysium again, it will be the second great war between demonic humans. Our race will be stuck in the middle as if we're treading on thin ice. Countless years have passed and no demons have made a move. It can't be such a coincidence, right? Life and death realm warriors only had a lifespan of 1,000 years. For a great war to happen in 1,000 years, Murong Qingqing felt that the chances were extremely small, almost impossible. Better to prevent than to nip it in the bud. Moreover, I'm not saying it without any basis. In short, you have to become powerful as soon as possible. Powerful enough to become a peak character in this world. Only then will you have the right to speak and fight for the right to live for our race. Senior, which side will you choose? Murong Qingqing suddenly asked. Me. The lady in black forced a smile. It's not about which side I choose but whether they trust us or not. If they choose the demons, we are just lower-class people. If we choose the human race, they will definitely be on guard against us. If someone with bad intentions appears and provokes us, our race will be in danger. I will choose the human race, Murong Qingqing said with determination. She was born and raised in Elysium. Half of her blood was human. Therefore, it was reasonable for her to choose the human race. It is meaningless to choose now. The lady in black did not speak anymore. She sighed in her mind, hoping that this day would not happen. At least it would not happen in her lifetime. Without Murong Qingqing to accompany him, Yi Chen did not ride on the flying puppet anymore. He only relied on the Zhenyuan inside his body and flew towards the south. After half a month, Yi Chen stopped and looked down at the ocean. He mumbled to himself, the cold iron city should be right under here. The space between Qin Wentian's eyebrows split open, and the silver vertical eye looked down. In the silver world, the seawater had become transparent. Below the seabed, a majestic and vast city sat there. The city was covered by a round barrier, and there were people coming and going from time to time. It was incomparably prosperous. Closing his vertical eye, Yi Chen took a deep breath. His body flashed as he jumped into the ocean, swimming towards the cold iron city. The cold iron city was a very ancient city in Elysium. It was said that the whole city wall was made of 1,000-year cold iron. Although the 1,000-year cold iron was not a precious metal, it was still not something that could be easily found. Building the city wall would require an uncountable amount of 1,000-year cold iron. There were two reasons for entering the cold iron city. First, it was to broaden his horizons. Second, it was because Yi Chen knew that the cold iron city was rich in materials, and the trade volume was huge. Maybe he could find some extreme rank materials there which could be used to forge extreme rank greatswords in the future. After all, he was not far from the life and death realm. It would not be a bad thing to accumulate some materials. There were 8 city gates in the cold iron city. The other places were not allowed to enter and could not be entered. Outside the north gate, Yi Chen landed. Without much inspection, Yi Chen was allowed to enter the cold iron city. In other cities, the most prosperous place would be the restaurants. But in the cold iron city, the most popular place was the trade of materials. Walking on the street, there were stalls selling materials everywhere. Some of the things on these stalls were things that Yi Chen had never seen before. As a newcomer, Yi Chen was not familiar with the cold iron city. So, he walked around and bought some materials for forging swords. Mid-rank, top rank, everything was not missed. The higher the level of sword forging, the slower the progress would be. If one wanted to reach the realm of perfection, he would have to forge more swords and accumulate more experience. In the evening, Yi Chen arrived at a restaurant. Have you heard? Recently, a merchant group was annihilated by 3 of the 50 bandits of the Blood Sea. All of their belongings were plundered. The men were killed and the women were taken away. This is not news anymore. A few days ago it was spread all over the city. It caused the merchant groups in the cold iron city to not dare to casually leave the city. They are currently recruiting and buying horses. Only when they have enough people will they dare to leave the city. These 50 bandits of the Blood Sea are really terrifying. The 50 bandits have always been the most mysterious force in the Blood Sea. Any one of them is an overlord of a region. It's not just about us. As long as we don't pass through the Blood Sea, it will be fine. When Yi Chen sat down, he heard many people discussing about the 50 bandits of the Blood Sea. Yi Chen did not care much about it. He ordered some dishes and wine and enjoyed it alone. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Yi Chen left the restaurant. When he walked out of the door, a lady in blue walked past him. The two of them seemed to have sensed each other's aura and were slightly startled. This cold iron city is indeed an important city in the southern deep sea. There are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers. On the street, Yi Chen thought to himself. Chapter 822. The lady in blue was also very curious about Yi Chen. His cultivation was only at mid-rank half-step king warrior realm, but somehow he had given her a lot of pressure. If it were normal half-step king warriors, they would not be able to feel this kind of pressure at all. But her instinct was extremely sharp and she was very sensitive to some hidden things. The life and death secret realm that happens once every 10 years will start in half a year. All of the hidden young warriors will show up. I cannot be careless. A thought flashed through her mind as she turned around to check on Yi Chen. But unfortunately, Yi Chen had already disappeared from the street. The cold iron city was a big trading city for materials. Since there were a lot of materials, there were naturally some rare alchemists and weapon forgers. Alchemists would need a cauldron and weapon forgers would need a stove. Besides that, they would also need a suitable environment for making pellets and weapons. Renting a yard that was suitable for weapon forgers, Yi Chen started to forge mid-rank great swords, continuing to train his skills. Da, 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 da. Inside the forging room, Yi Chen's upper body was bare as he held a hammer in his hand, hitting the sword. It was a mid-rank hammer and each time he hit the sword it would have the same amount of power. There was also a special power that washed over the sword, clearing out the meridians of the sword. After 4 to 5 days, Yi Chen was finally able to forge top-rank mid-rank great swords with 100% success rate. The success rate of super-rank mid-rank great swords was also more than 30%, close to 40%. This meant that his mid-rank sword forging technique was getting better and better, and he was not too far away from the perfect level. On this day Yi Chen came to a big street. On this street, there were many trade caravans with different flags, fluttering in the wind. The Green Sun trade team is hiring warriors to go to the Blood Sky Land. Late Sea of Souls realm warriors are needed for 100 people, 150,000 top-rank soul stones per person. 10 half-step king warriors, 1 million top-rank soul stones per person. 1/10 will be paid first, and the rest will be paid when we arrive at the destination. The Sickle trade team is hiring warriors to go to the Blood Sky Land. There were dozens of different size trade teams on the street. The smaller ones only needed dozens of people and no more than 30 at most. The bigger ones needed hundreds of people and the price was also very high. It was not hard to imagine how high the total value of their goods would be. These people are either demi-beasts, demon arts, or even demonic beasts. Indeed, the Blood Sky Land is full of demons, and there are not many righteous people here. The Blood Sky Land was a land that the Battle King had been to before. It was much smaller than the True Spirit Land, but it was filled with beasts and demons. It was a paradise for beasts, demonic martial artists, and demi-beasts. Compared to the Blood Sky Land, the True Spirit Land was 100 times more peaceful. The Full Moon trade team is hiring warriors of Late Sea of Souls realm warriors. There is no limit, 200,000 top-rank soul stones per person, 30 half-step king warriors, 1 million top-rank soul stones per person, 3 million top-rank warriors. The top warrior, half-step king warriors, 300,000 top-rank soul. The other big trade teams had already paid a high price, but the Full Moon trade team's price was 20% higher than theirs. Plus, they were interested in hiring the top half-step king warriors, so the price was 3 million top-rank soul stones. If they wanted to hire all of them, they would have to pay almost 100 million top-rank soul stones. Damn. The Full Moon trade team is indeed rich. They can always beat us. What can we do? They are from the Full Moon trade team, which is one of the top 2 trade teams in the Blood Sky Land. They have power all over the whole land and the ocean around. Their wealth is immeasurable. 100 million top-rank soul stones is just a small amount for them. The other trade team leaders looked at the Full Moon trade team with envy. Count me in. Me too. This is the right time. I'm going back to the Blood Sky Land anyway. Everyone who came to this street were all powerful warriors. The weakest among them was at Mid-Sea of Souls realm, and the highest was obviously half-step king warrior. Before, everyone was still waiting for a good price, but once the Full Moon trade team announced their price, 1/3 of the people rushed over. Soon, the Full Moon trade team had hired 200 to 300 Late Seas of Souls realm warriors, and more than 10 half-step king warriors as well. However, the leader of the trade team was still not satisfied. The Cold Iron City and the Blood Sky Land were separated by the Blood Ocean. The 50 robbers were extremely aggressive, and the Full Moon trade team was the target of the 50 robbers. Without enough power, it would be easy for them to be slaughtered. Leader, although there are a lot of powerful warriors in the Cold Iron City, as well as a lot of the Southern Deep Ocean and Blood Sky Land, not everyone would be willing to take this kind of dangerous job. I am afraid we will have to stay for a few more days and hire enough powerful warriors before we leave. There were 4 half-step king warriors in the Full Moon trade team, and the one talking was a middle-aged man in his 50s. He was full of demon chi, obviously walking on the demon path. The leader of the trade team was only at Late Sea of Souls realm. He shook his head. No, the 50 pirates must have spies in the city. The longer we wait, the more prepared they will be. We have to leave today. We cannot give them any time to prepare. The middle-aged man thought that it was reasonable, so he thought to himself, the 50 pirates are too arrogant. I wonder why no one has gone to kill them. It is not that simple. The 50 pirates have thousands of years of history. Every time one of them dies, there will be a new one to replace it. There should be a huge organization behind them and they will never stop killing them. Plus, there are also life and death realm warriors among them. Will be very troublesome. The 50 pirates were only people on the surface. As the leader of a trade team, he knew more than the others. Do you still need people here? Right then Yichen walked over and asked. Half-step king warrior. Yes. The leader of the trade team was a chubby elder. Seeing that there was another half-step king warrior who accepted the job, a smile appeared on his face. This is your 120,000 top-rank soul stones. The remaining 90% will be given to you when we get to the Blood Skyland. This is the rule. The chubby elder gave the deposit to Yichen. Yichen did not really care about the hiring fee. He was going to the Blood Skyland anyway, so it would be convenient for him. Standing on the side with his eyes closed, Yichen waited quietly for the departure. Count me in. All of a sudden Yichen heard a crisp female voice. He opened his eyes and was a bit surprised. It was the lady in blue who had walked past him in front of the restaurant a couple of days ago. She was very pretty, and there was a long and thin blade on her waist. She looked very handsome, like a heroine. As Yichen looked at her, the lady in blue looked over as well. Hello, I am Lan Sanmei. The lady in blue introduced herself. Yichen. Yichen's senses were very sharp. He could tell that although Lan Sanmei looked very peaceful, there was a hint of evil chi in his eyes. He was obviously a powerful warrior who trained demon arts. Although his cultivation was a bit weaker than the Dark Light King, he was still at the first level of life and death challenge. The chubby elder was very happy. He did not have much hope before, but he did not expect that there would be a top half-step king warrior joining them. With a top half-step king warrior, the trade team would be much safer. Alright, let's go. Waving his hand, the chubby elder said confidently. Wait, do you still need people? A familiar voice fell into Yichen's ears. He turned around and said with surprise, Thunder Spirit King. It was indeed the Thunder Spirit King, one of the top half-step king warriors of the True Spirit Continent. Ah, great. Another top half-step king warrior. And this person's cultivation is so powerful. He must be at least at the peak of the second level of life and death challenge. The chubby elder and the 4 top half-step king warriors of the trade team were very excited. 2 top half-step king warriors had appeared in a row. Today was indeed a lucky day for the trade team. As for the Thunder Spirit King's request, the chubby elder would naturally not reject it. He gave him 300,000 top-rank soul stones without hesitation and invited him to join the trade team. You are Yichen, right? The Thunder Spirit King would not ignore Yichen, so he said with a smile. Yichen said with a bit of emotion, I did not expect to see you here. What a coincidence. Yeah. The Thunder Spirit King was also very emotional. The Cold Iron City was hundreds of millions of miles away from the True Spirit Continent, and to be able to run into an acquaintance was almost impossible. What surprised him was that Yichen had already reached the mid-rank half-step king warrior level. With his talent, he might be able to compete with the top half-step king warriors. Leaving the city, the group of dozens of people flew toward the south. Along the way, Yichen and the Thunder Spirit King chatted for a while. There are so many powerful warriors out there, unlike the True Spirit Continent. They are all either in closed-up training or like me running out into the open ocean. There are not many of them left on the True Spirit Continent. The Thunder Spirit King said. Yichen said, there are a lot of half-step king warriors on the True Spirit Continent as well? On his way here, he had run into a lot of half-step king warriors, which made him wonder if the half-step king warriors on the True Spirit Continent were not as powerful as the Deep South Ocean. Although he had not actually made it into the circle of half-step king warriors on the True Spirit Continent, he had only run into a bunch of them in the 4 Extreme Emperor's tomb. The Thunder Spirit King said, of course not. That time in the tomb, only a small part of them had gone. There were still some left in the martial schools. Besides, most of them are not on the True Spirit Continent. They are exploring everywhere, looking for their own opportunities to train themselves. Is that so? Yichen nodded. After reaching the half-step king warrior level, it was time to prepare for the life and death realm. Obviously, everyone would not just sit around and do nothing. They all had their own things to do. The Thunder Spirit King said again, you are already at the half-step king warrior level. You cannot miss the life and death secret realm. By then, you will run into a lot of martial geniuses just like you. I know. There is an entrance in the Blood Skyland anyway. I will just go in there. There was no way that Yichen did not know about the life and death secret realm since it was in the Battle King's memory. It is good that you know. Alright, I have also entered the life and death secret realm before. Inside, we of the true spirit continent have to stick together. Otherwise, we will be easily bullied by the martial geniuses from other places. So, after you go in, you have to get in touch with the warriors on the life and death realm waiting list. They are Luo Qiandu. There are martial geniuses on the life and death realm waiting list in our true spirit continent? Yi Qin had never heard of them before. In terms of martial geniuses, of course, they are not as powerful as your generation. But they are all in their 40s and their cultivation is very high. If it were not for the fact that I am over the age limit, I could introduce you to them. Chapter 823. From the Thunder Spirit King, Yi Qin had learned a lot of things. Although this year's martial geniuses were very powerful and glorious, the geniuses from the previous year would not be that bad either. The most powerful ones were almost the same as the top 4 young warriors, who had reached the half-step king warrior realm before the age of 40. They had even made it into the life and death realm substitute ranking. Now that 10 years had passed, they were all almost 50 years old, which meant that their cultivation and power must be very powerful. This also explained why there weren't any young geniuses in their 40s or 50s in True Spirit Continent's master ranking. It was because the majority of them had already become half-step kings, so they naturally wouldn't come out to compete for the ranking. Master-level experts were only masters, so how could they be compared to half-step kings? As for the most powerful half-step king warriors, there were more than 3 of them. The Thunder Spirit King knew 5 of them, and adding some of them who were in closed-door training all the time, there might be more than 10 of them. The True Spirit Continent was not as simple as it seemed. Otherwise, it would not be the center of the Elysium, the place with the most luck. Besides, Yi Qin had also learned from the Thunder Spirit King that a lot of the martial geniuses had already reached the half-step king warrior realm. Bai Wuxia was the first, and the others were right behind him, including Lu Xiaoyu, Xiaohozuan, Xiaochuhe, and the Godly Shark Princess. As for Dugu Ju and the rest, when the Thunder Spirit King left, they had not made the breakthrough yet. All in all, the martial geniuses of the True Spirit Continent had all started to make the breakthrough. In terms of training talent, Yi Qin actually did not have much of an advantage. Thunder Spirit King, are you at the 3rd level of the Life and Death Challenge? Yi Qin asked. The Thunder Spirit King laughed. You saw through me? Not bad, I have already reached the 3rd level of the Life and Death Challenge. I will try to reach the Life and Death realm before I turn 70. Although Xianhou had reached the Life and Death realm at the age of 35, it did not mean that people who were slightly weaker than her would be able to reach the Life and Death realm at the age of 36 or 37. Life and Death realm was the highest realm in Elysium, and it was not something that could be easily reached. Not only did it require talent, but it also required a bit of luck. Perhaps one might be one of the top martial geniuses before reaching the Life and Death realm, but would reach the Life and Death realm later than others. Anything was possible. Mr. Yi, are you from the True Spirit Continent? As the two were talking, Lan Sanmei suddenly interrupted. Yi Qin nodded and said, yes. He and the Thunder Spirit King did not use Zhenyuan sound transmission, so it was not surprising that Lan Sanmei could hear it. I have always wanted to go to the True Spirit Continent. I heard that it is the center of the Elysium, and the Blood Sky Continent was also separated from the True Spirit Continent. Lan Sanmei knew a lot about it. The Thunder Spirit King chuckled. They all say that there are many beasts in the Blood Sky Continent. You have trained a demon martial art, so you must be one of the famous martial geniuses in the Blood Sky Continent. You flatter me. Your power is the one that I admire. Lan Sanmei was very scared of the Thunder Spirit King, who used blades just like her. However, his cultivation was 2 realms higher than hers. She did not think that she would be able to beat him with a higher cultivation. She was a martial genius, but the Thunder Spirit King was not ordinary either. Although he did not look like a young man, but more like a middle-aged man, judging from his life force, he was only in his 50s. Being able to reach the 3rd level of the Life and Death Challenge in his 50s, he must have been a powerful martial genius. Lan Sanmei was very sensitive to life force. The reason why the Thunder Spirit King looked like a middle-aged man was that he had used a secret art to reduce his lifespan by 10 years. Therefore he looked 10 years older than his peers. Based on the Sea of Souls realm warrior's lifespan of 300 years, he was only a young man in his 50s. The cold iron city was very deep under the sea. When it came out of the water, a group of hundreds of people floated in the air. Everyone come on up. The chubby elder touched his storage ring with his finger, and a massive puppet ship appeared in front of everyone out of nowhere, which made everyone's eyes light up. This puppet ship was 60 to 70 meters long and 10 meters wide. It was covered in a light yellow chi layer, and there were dozens of puppet cannons at the front and the back of the ship. Not bad. It is a top-rank puppet ship. Yi Chen chuckled. Although the top-rank puppet ships would not be able to threaten half-step king warriors, they would be able to deal quite a bit of damage to Sea of Souls realm warriors, which would save a lot of manpower. Most importantly, sitting on the puppet ships would be a lot easier, since the journey to the Blood Sky land would not be a small one. Everyone got on the ship and it started to move. The speed of the puppet ship was very fast, even faster than Yi Chen's flying puppet. Within a second it could fly dozens of miles away and one could not feel any wind on the ship, so they could enjoy the scenery from the front of the ship. The chubby elder walked to the front of the ship and said to the Thunder Spirit King and Lan Sanmei, "Thank you too for taking the job and protecting our full moon trade team." Alright, let's not be careless. There are 2 top half-step king warriors on their ship. Once we get on, we need to keep them busy. Do not give them the chance to kill our people. The one in the middle was a tall middle-aged man with fish fins on his head. His eyes were more black than white, looking very creepy. Without top half-step king warriors, I think they would not dare to return to the Blood Sky land. The old lady had an evil look on her face. The tall middle-aged man took a step forward and said with a loud voice, "The people on the ship are the members of the full moon trade team. Hand over your goods and 100 million top-rank spirit stones, and we will let you go. Otherwise we will kill you." The fat elder stood at the front of the ship and replied, "You are the head of the 50 robbers, the tyrant fish. We, the full moon trade team, do not have any conflicts with you guys. Please move aside now. Do not cause any misunderstanding." Misunderstanding. The tall middle-aged man laughed out loud, showing his sharp teeth. He said, "In our eyes there is no misunderstanding. There is always obedience. If you do not obey, we will kill you all. I will ask again, do you obey or not?" Hearing him, the fat elder started to panic. On the side of the 50 robbers, there were 3 top half-step king warriors and 17 half-step king warriors. On their side, there were 2 top half-step king warriors and only 14 half-step king warriors, which was a lot weaker. Besides that, although the other 30 of them were only at peak level late Seas of Souls realm or rank 10 tyrant beasts, being able to be in the top 50 robbers meant that they were not weak at all. They might even be able to kill half-step king warriors. What he was worried about the most was that there were so many of them and they were only hired warriors. He wondered if they would run away. The fat elder's worry was not without reason. Some of the people on the ship had a flicker in their eyes. They were obviously scared by the aura of the 50 robbers. Lan Sanmei saw that and said coldly, "The Blood Sea 50 robbers would never leave anyone alive. Have you ever heard of anyone that they would let go?" Lan Sanmei's words had woken everyone up. Indeed, since they had encountered the 50 robbers, they would not be able to run away. If they did not stick together, they would only die worse. "What are you afraid of? Let's fight with them. We might not lose. Everyone, let's go." Everyone yelled. The tall middle-aged man's expression turned cold. "You are looking for death. Kill them all." As the tall middle-aged man waved his hand, the 50 robbers and the people behind them all rushed over, throwing out powerful attacks that landed on the puppet ship. "Let's go." Lan Sanmei, Thunder Spirit King, and Yi Chen took the lead and left the puppet ship. The rest of them came out as well, throwing out attacks together. Chapter 824. On the puppet ship, all of the cannons were fired at the same time, shooting out intense flames. As for the members of the full moon trade team, none of them got off the ship, since they had to protect the elder and the goods. But they were also standing on the ship, attacking the 50 robbers from a distance. The battle had reached its climax within a second. Because of the fact that the number of people had been reduced by half, more than 20 people had been killed before they could even make a sound. "Let's kill some of them first." A cold light flashed through Lan Sanmei's eyes. Her body turned into a black beam of light, shooting into the enemy's group like a thunder. The next second, dark red blade light shot out. Each blade light would take away dozens of lives. Within a couple of blinks of an eye, almost 100 people had died in her hands, including 6 robbers. One of them was even a half-step king warrior, but they still could not survive one blade attack. The tall middle-aged man's eyes were wide open as he yelled, "Ghost Lady, what are you waiting for? Go stop her." Lan Sanmei was way too fast. Before the two of them even made contact, she had already entered the enemy's group, which made the enemies unable to react in time. Hundreds of them had been killed by her, which was a huge loss. Plus, Lan Sanmei's power had shocked the tall middle-aged man as well. The ghost lady was indeed an old lady with long hair on her face. Her cultivation was very high, having reached the second level of the life and death challenge. Her weapon was a pair of iron claws that shone with a cold light. Like a monkey, she flashed once and passed through countless warriors, appearing right in front of Lan Sanmei. Little girl, die. The iron claws attacked as the ghost lady laughed. It is not certain who will die yet. Lan Sanmei's weapon was a pitch-black long blade. With Zhen Yuan poured into it, it shone with a dark red chi flow. As soon as the blade was thrown out, a bright blade light appeared, clashing with the ghost lady's iron claws. Clang. The ghost lady could not stop her body and was blown away. It is the Demon Blade spell from the Demon Blade Martial School. You are the Demon Girl Blade Lan Sanmei. The ghost lady yelled out loud. The Demon Blade Martial School was a famous super martial school in the Blood Sky Land, and the Demon Blade spell was their secret martial art. The way of using the power was completely different from the other blade artists. It was extremely aggressive and had the vibrating power. Good that you know. Lan Sanmei quickly gave chase. Along the way, the weaker enemies were shredded into a bloody mist by the saber chi he emitted before they could get close. Lan Sanmei's momentum was unstoppable. Mixia, go and help. The tall middle-aged man hadn't expected that the ghost woman would be at a disadvantage in just one move. When he heard the ghost woman call out the other's identity, he suddenly understood and hurriedly asked the shadowy middle-aged man to help. Demoness Blade Lan Sanmei, if you catch her you'll definitely have a good time. Hee ghost granny, let me help you. The gloomy middle-aged man laughed sinisterly, his figure distorted like a phantom and disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again he was already behind Lan Sanmei. Lan Sanmei's senses were sharp. The moment Mixia appeared, she sensed it. She spun her devil's blade and slashed towards Mixia's body. It's not good for a woman to be so fierce. Mixia easily dodged the attack as if his body was weightless. Yi Chen, let's go. As the Thunder Spirit King spoke, his body jumped out and took out his long blade. He held it with both of his hands and threw out a blade attack from the sky. Boom. 1,000-meter-long thunder and lightning blade light appeared out of nowhere. 70 to 80 enemies in its path were all turned into ashes by the thunder and lightning blade light. The power of the Thunder Spirit King's one blade attack was even more powerful than Lan Sanmei's. Of course, it also had something to do with the speed of his blade aura. Lan Sanmei's blade speed was slightly faster. Bastard! Where did this kind of powerful warrior come from? The tall middle-aged man was just about to start killing when he was shocked by the Thunder Spirit King. Let me fight you. The tall middle-aged man shook his steel fork and a silver-blue fork shadow shot out, attacking toward the Thunder Spirit King. Although he was only at the second level of the life and death challenge, his real body was a tyrant fish, which meant that he was born to be able to fight beyond his cultivation. Otherwise, he would not have been able to become the leader of the 50 robbers. Dang. Dang. The two started to fight. They are both very powerful. Yi Chen had seen the battling power of Lan Sanmei and the Thunder Spirit King. Lan Sanmei's Demon Blade spell was very unique in terms of how he used his power. Combined with his profound sense martial arts, it was almost indestructible. The Thunder Spirit King's blade art was very powerful, and his body power was also very powerful. He seemed to be a body training warrior. With the combination of the two, it was extremely horrifying. Let's kill him together. Yi Chen stood in the air alone. In front of him, dozens of people from the 50 robbers had their eyes on him. They attacked together, trying to turn him into a blood mist. Yi Chen disappeared from where he was standing. 27 sword attacks. In the sky, Yi Chen pointed out his left sword finger and the broken blood sword came out of its scabbard automatically. It divided into 27 sword shadows and shot out. Shoo. Although the defensive sword spell would not be able to kill the top half-step king warriors, it would be too easy for some of the Sea of Souls realm warriors or rank 10 warriors. It was like piercing through tofu. 27 sword shadows shot out at once, killing all of the enemies. This is powerful as well. On the front of the ship, the fat elder saw that Lan Sanmei and the Thunder Spirit King were this powerful, so he was very happy. He thought to himself that they might be able to make it back to the Blood Sky Land safely. Once Yi Chen performed his defensive sword spell, the happiness on his face turned into excitement. God bless the Full Moon Trade Team. This guy has mastered the Lost Sword spell, and he has already reached the level of 27 sword attacks. The reason why Yi Qin was able to reach the level of 27 sword attacks was all because of the sword forging he had done before. During the process, his understanding of the sword art had never stopped. If it were not for this, he would not have wasted so much time on forging swords before his cultivation had improved. After all, the life and death secret realm would open in half a year, and he would have to increase his own power. The defensive sword spell was too powerful. In other words, besides the sword realm, none of Yi Chen's other attacks could kill people this fast and this easily. Go! Releasing his soul power, Yi Chen strengthened his control over each of the sword shadows, allowing the 27 sword shadows to enter the battlefield between the two sides. The powerful warriors on the Full Moon Trade Team's side realized that the enemies who were fighting with them before had been decapitated and died on the spot. This scene kept repeating as the number of enemies decreased rapidly. In the end, there were only less than 100 of them left. Why is this happening? The tall middle-aged man had been blown back by the Thunder Spirit King's blade attack. He took some time to check out the battle situation, but it had shocked him even more. The Thunder Spirit King chuckled. If you want to take him on, you will need a top half-step king warrior. Unfortunately, you do not have enough people. Wuxia, take this brat out first. Biting on his teeth, the tall middle-aged man sent a message to Wuxia, telling him to take on Yi Chen first. He thought that the ghost woman would be able to last for a while under Lan Sanmei's attack. As long as Wuxia could kill Yi Chen within this period of time, it would still be a big win for him. You take care of yourself first. The Thunder Spirit King held his blade with both of his hands as he threw out another blade attack. The thunder blade light seemed to be able to split the sky and the ground, blasting the tall middle-aged man into the ocean. Boom! A massive creature broke out of the water. It was a massive tyrant fish, its body colorful and full of bone spikes. In its mouth there were rows of sharp teeth like that of a shark. The tall middle-aged man had decided to risk it all. He returned to his original form, wanting to kill the Thunder Spirit King once and for all. On the other side, Wuxia and the ghost woman separated and jumped at Yi Chen. Brat, it is your bad luck to run into me. Wuxia love to kill powerful people. As Wuxia spoke, a circle of transparent patterns spread out. Those who were touched by the pattern fell into an illusion immediately. No matter who was friend or foe, they would start killing each other crazily. Using an illusion against me? Yi Chen sneered as he pretended to fall into an illusion, his eyes glazed over. Haha, die. Seizing the opportunity, Wuxia flew over and threw out a palm attack towards Yi Chen's head. If that attack landed, Yi Chen's head would definitely explode. Suddenly, a sharp sword light shone brightly as a head flew into the sky. One sword attack and Wuxia was killed. Using an illusion against Yi Chen was his biggest mistake. When Yi Chen was facing the dream-eating wolf's dream, he was able to wake up instantly. Although Wuxia's illusion power was powerful, he had underestimated Yi Chen's soul power. Yi Chen's soul power was not weaker than his, in fact, it was way more powerful. In essence, it was at the level of a life and death realm warrior. If he did not use an illusion, Yi Chen would have to use his bewitching mirror shattering to kill his opponent with one sword attack, unlike now, where he could cut off his opponent's head with one normal sword attack. Spare me. In the distance, an ugly monkey with long hair was running away at full speed. It was the ghost woman's real body, and the one chasing after her was Lan Sanmei. Originally, Lan Sanmei could have easily killed the ghost lady. However, Wuxia had joined the fray. Wuxia's illusory realm ability had greatly affected her, causing her blade art's accuracy to drop by a lot. However, once Wuxia left, she immediately regained the upper hand. With just 2 or 3 blade strikes, the ghost lady was forced to run away in embarrassment. Demon cut. Throwing out a blade attack, Lan Sanmei stopped chasing. Swoosh. The ghost woman's body was cut in half, the stinky blood splashing everywhere. On the other side, the Thunder Spirit King jumped high into the air, landing on the head of the Tyrant Kingfish. He held his great blade with both of his hands, stabbing it into its body. Falling thunder cut. Boom. Countless twisted thunder fell onto the Thunder Spirit King's body, pouring into the fish through his body and blade. Pop, pop. The fish's body was burnt black, its life force completely gone. It could not be more dead. What? The leaders are all dead? On the enemy's side, after seeing the Tyrant Kingfish, the Ghost Woman, and Wuxia, the 3 top half-step king warriors all dead, they all looked dazed, losing all of their battle intent. On the other hand, the Full Moon Trade Team's side, their aura had increased drastically. It was as if they had all eaten some kind of great tonic. When they started to kill people, they were much more aggressive than before. Even the leaders of the enemies had died, so what was there to be afraid of? Plus, they had the advantage of numbers. The chubby elder was also very happy, his expression relaxing a little. The 50 great bandits made people tremble with fear. Unfortunately, they had encountered 3 great malefic stars. Each of them was decisive in killing and extremely strong in martial arts. Chapter 825. 200 against dozens, the 50 robbers were doomed to be wiped out. And the biggest contributors were without a doubt the Thunder Spirit King Lan Sanmei and Yi Qin. Please come on board. The chubby elder welcomed the 3 with a big smile on his face. The elder knew how to be a nice guy, so he added 500,000 top-rank soul stones to the Thunder Spirit King and Lan Sanmei. As for Yi Qin, he also enjoyed the treatment of a top half-step king warrior, which was also 3,500,000 top-rank soul stones. No one would complain about having more soul stones, so the 3 gladly accepted it. On the deck, not many of the powerful warriors who had been hired by the Full Moon Trade team had died. Right then they had gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and started to discuss. So that blue-robed girl is the demoness Blade Lan Mei. No wonder she's so powerful. Demonic Blade Sect's disciples are all blade experts, and this Lan Mei is a blade Dao genius of the demonic blade sect that's rarely seen in thousands of years. Lan Mei's blade art is naturally powerful, but this blade-wielding middle-aged man's blade art is even more tyrannical. With a single blade strike he killed 70 to 80 enemies. In the end he stabbed his blade into the tyrant kingfish's head and electrocuted it. Did you not see how high his cultivation is? In my opinion he is at least at the peak of the 2nd level of the Life and Death Challenge or even the 3rd level. These 2 are indeed powerful, but that young man seems to be even more mysterious. The 3rd leader of the 50 robbers, Wuxia, was killed by him within 1 sword attack. It was such a quick death. I think it is strange as well. Wuxia is a powerful warrior at the 1st level of the Life and Death Challenge. How could he not even survive 1 sword attack? Perhaps he was too careless? Before, everyone did not pay much attention to Yi Qin, and most of the topics were on Lan Sanmei and the Thunder Spirit King. But now Yi Qin had undoubtedly become the focus, mainly because the scene of him killing Wuxia within 1 sword attack was way too shocking. It was almost effortless. On the bow of the ship, Yi Qin and the other 2 chatted while enjoying the scenery. Lan Sanmei looked at Yi Qin curiously. You don't seem to be affected by the bewitching illusion. I didn't expect him to die so quickly in your hands. Yi Qin said, everyone has their own secrets. This can be considered one of my secrets. The Thunder Spirit King laughed. Do not underestimate him. He is the most powerful martial genius in our True Spirit continent right now. Not only in the True Spirit continent but in other places as well. I don't think there is anyone who could compete with him. At least until now I have not seen anyone. The number 1 martial genius of the True Spirit continent. Lan Sanmei was shocked. It had been a safe journey, and now it was time to collect the remaining 9% of the commission. Everyone, the commission is here. Come and get it. Inside the Chamber of Commerce, a lot of people came out. After receiving the elder's order, a small leader came out to give out the commission. The 3 of you your commission. Yi Qin and the other 2 were different. The elder was giving out the commission himself. Before, the elder had already given Yi Qin 230,000 top-rank soul stones, and now he was giving him 3,150,000 soul stones. Hold on your VIP tokens. The elder had just entered the branch and had discussed with the branch leader. He had gotten 3 tags and gave them to Yi Qin and the other 2. Not bad. If there is a chance in the future, I will take on your missions again. The Thunder Spirit King put away the tags. He knew that building a good relationship with the Full Moon Chamber of Commerce was not a bad thing. Thank you. From now on, you will get a 10% discount when you buy anything from my Chamber of Commerce. The elder was extremely excited. You 2, I will go first. Lan Sanmei said. Have a safe trip. Yi Qin nodded. A black beam of light sliced through the sky as Lan Sanmei flew out of the city. Soon he disappeared into the horizon. Yi Qin, where are you going next? The Thunder Spirit King asked. Yi Qin said, to the Iron Blood region. Iron Blood region? The Thunder Spirit King froze a bit. It seems like you already have a plan. What about you? Yi Qin asked him back. Me. I have reached the 3rd level of the Life and Death Challenge, so I need to go through some life and death situations. Otherwise, I would not be able to reach the life and death realm before the age of 70. To become a top half-step king warrior, one had to be active rather than passive. Without going through life and death situations, one would not be able to reach the life and death realm. Then I hope you can become a life and death realm warrior soon. You too. The Thunder Spirit King laughed as he flew into the sky. In the end, only Yi Chen was left. Iron Blood region. I wonder what the martial school left by the Battle King has become after hundreds of years. I hope it has not been destroyed yet. The Battle King had been to the Blood Sky land before and created a rank 5 martial school in the Iron Blood region, called the Immortal Sword Martial School. Later on, the Battle King returned to the True Spirit continent and ran into a powerful enemy. Since then he had never returned to the Iron Blood region. This time Yi Chen had come because of the Battle King's request. Of course, Yi Chen himself had been looking forward to this place as well. If the human cities were peaceful and prosperous, then the cities in the Blood Sky land could only be described as evil. On the streets, there were beasts that had not transformed yet. Some of them had tails, some had fur, and some had scales on their bodies. They were in between humans and beasts, so they were more or less called beastmen. Besides these beasts, there were also demon martial artists with a cold aura and demi-beasts with a cold expression on their faces. Occasionally, one could even see demi-demons. This place looked prosperous, but it was actually full of danger. Humans were bound by morals, and the races here valued power more than anything else. They did whatever they wanted and were cruel and violent. Extending his body, Yi Chen left the city, flying toward the Iron Blood region like lightning. Chase. Just as Yi Chen left, a group of beastmen chased after him. They had seen it clearly that Yi Chen had just received the commission from the Full Moon Trade Union, and it seemed to be quite a lot. In the Blood Sky land, the spirit stones were much less than in the True Spirit continent. Warriors with the same cultivation would not have as much wealth as the ones in the True Spirit continent. Plus, they liked to rob other people's wealth. In this group of beastmen there were 2 demi-beast kings and the rest were all rank 10 beasts. It was a force that should not be underestimated. They had been gathering around the Full Moon Trade Union all year round, waiting for the chance to ambush the lone warriors who had received the commission. Outside the city, in the wild, it was extremely barren. A beam of sword light sliced through the sky. Right after that, another group of light followed. Seal the sky and lock the ground. The leading demi-beast king opened both of his hands as a bright yellow light shone out of his body. He then shot out into the sky. The gravity suddenly increased, and Yi Chen's body started to slow down. Boss, your special power is indeed fast. You can make them stay every time. The beastmen behind him laughed. The demi-beast king with a face full of pockmarks sneered, without this special power, even if we have our eyes on our target, we might not be able to catch up. Turning around, Yi Chen looked at this group of beastmen. You want to die. Yi Chen did not plan to cause any trouble as he only wanted to get rid of them. But the latter's special power had slowed him down a lot. Although he had ways to leave, he would not be a coward and not fight back. Arrogant. Kill him. With the 2 demi-beast kings in the lead, this group of beastmen rushed toward Yi Chen. Some of them had already started to turn into their original forms such as tigers, birds, or huge snakes. They all performed their powers, attacking toward Yi Chen. Then die. The broken blood sword was taken out of its scabbard, turning into 27 sword shadows, slicing through the group of beastmen. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Blood splashed everywhere as the broken blood sword returned to its scabbard. Yi Chen reached out his hand and waved, taking all of the beastmen's storage rings into his hand. Then he turned around and flew away. Behind him, a huge amount of dead beastmen fell from the sky, landing heavily on the ground. The blood dyed the ground red and was absorbed by the ground. Chapter 826. The True Spirit continent had 4 regions and the Sky Martial region. There were no regions in the Blood Sky land, so there were only 13 regions in total. The Iron Blood region was one of them, located in the west of the Blood Sky land. The Iron Blood region was huge, much bigger than the Thunder region of the True Spirit continent, but not as big as the Sky Martial region. The journey to the Iron Blood region was 70 million miles long, and using the flying puppets would be too slow. So Yi Chen flew in the air at his normal speed. Above the Blood Ocean, the wind was blowing hard and the waves were crashing. 3 blood shadows appeared out of nowhere in the sky, looking down. I did not expect that the 50 robbers that we had trained with so much effort would all be killed within one day. Did you guys find out who killed them? The blood shadow in the middle was blurry. It was obviously not the real body but just a projection. But it still contained a horrifying power. The blood shadow with a pair of horns on its head said, "I found out. Half a month ago, a full moon trade team from the Cold Iron City left for the Blood Sky Land. They hired a lot of powerful warriors. After our people got the news, they ambushed them here and we have not heard from them since then." Full moon trade team, huh? The blood shadow on the right was obviously a female, with a pair of blurry blood-colored wings on her back. She sneered, "The full moon trade team would not have any powerful warriors that could kill all 50 robbers. It must be one of the powerful warriors that they hired. As long as we can catch one of them, we will be able to find out who it is." The blood shadow in the middle nodded, "Do not touch the full moon trade team. If we go back and take revenge, it will only break the balance between us. We just need to catch the culprit. I will leave this to you, Blood Cow. Do not disappoint me." "Don't worry, brother." The blood shadow with the horns on its head agreed. The blood shadow and the female blood shadow in the middle slowly disappeared, as if they had never existed. The blood shadow with the horns opened its mouth wide, its eyes red. On the way to the Iron Blood region, Yi Chen did not run into many attacks. After all, his power was right there. Mid-rank half-step king warrior was enough to calm even the craziest killer down. Moreover, there were not as many half-step king warriors or beast kings in the Blood Sky Land as there were not as many in the True Spirit continent, so it was impossible for Yi Chen to run into all of them. Along the way, Yi Chen gained some understanding of the Blood Sky continent. In the Blood Sky Land, the biggest race was the beast. Therefore, the beast's martial schools were the most numerous, and they were also the most powerful. Among them, the top 10 martial schools were the most powerful, and they were the overlords of the Blood Sky Land. Next would be the human race. One had to admit that Elysium belonged to the human race after all. Although the number of beasts was not less than the human race, it was still the human race that dominated the world, not the beasts. Even in the Blood Sky Land, the human race was not weak. Most of the humans living in the Blood Sky Land trained in the demonic arts, and there were very few who trained in the righteous arts. Even if there were, they would slowly turn to the demonic arts as time went by, because it was too difficult for the righteous to survive in this place. You could reason with others, but others would argue with you with their fists. As time went by, hatred would grow in your heart, and you would eventually become a member of the demonic arts. The third biggest race would be the demi-beasts with the bloodline of the beasts. In the True Spirit continent, there were very few demi-beasts, and they would not make much of a difference. However, in the Blood Sky Land, the demi-beasts were the third biggest race with hundreds of billions of them. The 6 demi-beast families were all very famous, and were way more powerful than the demi-beast families in the True Spirit continent. There were also demi-demons in the Blood Sky Land. Because of the lack of demi-beasts, all the demi-demon families had gathered together, forming the Blood Sky demi-demon race. Overall, it was obviously not as powerful as the demi-demon race in the Chaotic Demon Ocean, but it was way more powerful than the demi-demon race in the True Spirit continent. The top 4 races were always in conflict with each other. However, in the Blood Sky Land, the demi-beast race was recognized as the overlord. Everyone was afraid of them and did not dare to offend them too much. In the Iron Blood region, there was one of the top 10 beast martial schools, the Iron Paw Beast Martial School. 1 week later, Yi Chen arrived at the Iron Blood region. According to the Battle King's memory, Yi Chen knew clearly that the Immortal Sword Martial School was located in the Black Iron Mountain in the Iron Blood region. The Black Iron Mountain was rich in black iron, which made it the perfect location for a sword art martial school. At least, the outer disciples would not have to worry about not having a good sword. Arriving at the Black Iron Mountain out of caution, Yi Chen did not fly in. Instead, he flew at a low altitude along the empty space between the mountains. "Ichem? Why are there so many beasts here?" On the way, Yi Chen frowned. Inside the Black Iron Mountain there were beasts everywhere. Rank 1 beasts, Rank 2 beasts, Rank 3 beasts. There were countless of them. Normally, there would not be that many beasts around a human martial school. Otherwise, how would the disciples be able to come out? They would not risk their disciples' lives for no reason. Something is not right. Yi Chen had a bad feeling about this. As a half-step king warrior, Yi Chen's stealth ability was extremely powerful. At least, low-rank beasts would not be able to detect him. Even if he ran into some rank 9 or 10 beasts that had already transformed, they would not be able to detect Yi Chen. Flying past one mountain after another, Yi Chen felt that he was not that far from the center of the mountain. Swoosh! His palm shook and a huge hole appeared on the mountain next to him. Stone powder flew everywhere. Crawling into the hole, Yi Chen blocked the hole again. Open. The vertical eye between his eyebrows opened as Yi Chen closed both of his eyes tightly. Inside the silver world, Yi Chen's third eye's power pierced through the space, allowing him to see everything within millions of miles. Finally, he found the martial school in the mysterious Iron Mountain. Looking around, he forced a laugh. The martial school in the Black Iron Mountain was not the Immortal Sword Martial School, but a beast martial school. On the huge stone tablet in front of the mountain, there were 3 huge words: Beast Wolf Martial School. If the Beast Wolf Martial School is here, then where is the Immortal Sword Martial School? Perhaps they had been killed by the Beast Wolf Martial School? Yi Chen thought it was a bit ironic. In the True Spirit continent, the beasts were the targets of everyone's hunt. But in the Blood Sky land, the beasts were the masters. Although the low-rank beasts could not escape the fate of being hunted down because of their low intelligence. There must be a Beast King in the Beast Wolf Martial School. Asking them would be suicide. Letting out a breath of dirty chi, Yi Chen shattered the rocks blocking the entrance of the cave. His body flashed as he flew out of the mountain. Iron Blood City, the main city of the Iron Blood region. Inside the city there were mostly humans, demi-beasts and demi-demons. In the True Spirit continent, the beasts would need to reach rank 9 before they could transform. But in the Blood Sky land, they would be able to transform a bit earlier at rank 7. According to the rumors, the top 10 beast martial schools in the Blood Sky land had created a kind of shape-shifting pellet, which could allow the beasts to transform earlier. But, the beasts above rank 7 could not be compared with all the humans and demi-demons in the city after all. Looking at the beasts walking past him with pride, Yi Chen thought to himself, after devouring a wind-fire pellet and getting the extreme rank beast power crystal, the dream-eating wolf is about to become a demi-beast king. I wonder if it will be able to transform this time. If it succeeds, then I will let it stay by my side. There were different kinds of beasts as well. They were born with a hard time transforming, but some of them were born with it. It was hard to tell. A Sea of Souls realm warrior who trained demon arts walked over. "13 million miles had only taken Yi Chen 1.5 days. From afar, Yi Chen saw a huge mountain range. He did not know why, but the mountains were full of plants and the mountains were beautiful. However, it gave off a gloomy vibe as if it was an old man who was going to die at any second. Immortal Sword Martial School. How bad is it? Not only has it been changed to the Zhangtian Martial School, but the scene in the school is also so miserable. Martial schools had accumulated a lot of luck. Naturally, there would be a lot of scenes. If the luck was dim, then it would look gloomy. Chapter 827. It was because of the Battle King that I was able to learn the Immortal Sword intent. Although it might not be the main reason for me to achieve what I have today, it is still something that I cannot ignore. The Battle King's martial school is in trouble and I cannot ignore it. Otherwise, it would be a shame to the Battle King and my mind would not be clear. Originally, Yi Chen wanted to come and see the Immortal Sword Martial School, to see how it was doing. If it was really powerful and full of powerful warriors, he would leave quietly and not bring any trouble to them. He did not want to become the leader of the school either. However, now that the school was in trouble and had even changed to the Zhangtian Martial School, he could not just ignore it anymore. Letting out a deep breath, Yi Chen's body flashed as he flew into the deep part of the mountain range. In the middle of the mountain range, there was a huge mountain with beautiful scenery. The top half of the mountain seemed to have been cut off by someone with a saber, as it was smooth and flat. On top of the mountain there were many buildings high and low. Other than the gloomy scene, it was actually quite a nice place. Under the mountain, there was a huge stone monument with 3 big words carved on it, Zhangtian Martial School. 2 rows of disciples were guarding the mountain gate, chatting here and there. Right then, a group of people came down the mountain with their bags on their backs. "Brother Gao, did you guys ask for leave to go home?" Seeing some people coming down the mountain, one of the guarding disciples asked with a smile. The teenager who was walking in front of them shook his head silently. "Guys, I am glad to have been brothers with you for so many years. In the future, our friendship will continue and I will miss you guys as well." "Brother Gao, what are you doing?" The guarding disciple's face darkened as if he had guessed something. The teenager did not say anything, but the female disciple next to him said sadly, "We have decided to leave the school and never come back." "What? Why do you have to leave Zhangtian School? The leader and the others have treated you well. Why do you have to leave at this time? Once you leave, Zhangtian School will really have no successor." Among the disciples who were guarding the mountain, a rather straightforward young man shouted. The older teenager in front of him shook his head. Brother Wu, don't say any more. Brother Gao must have his own difficulties. Hardship? What hardship? Isn't it just Zhang Tian School being bullied by the other schools? Although I, Wu Changxing, do not have much talent, I know that the difficulties in front of me will only make me train harder. Since I cannot compete with others in terms of resources, I will use double the time to make up for it. Being humiliated by others will only stimulate my fighting spirit. Chapter 828. Yi Chen did not know why the school had fallen to such a state, but since he was already here, he would not let the school continue to fall. Even if he had to spend a lot of effort, it would be worth it. Of course, he would not give up on training either, since it was a world where only the powerful ones would be respected. Only with power could one have everything. Walking with big steps, Yi Chen was followed by a group of disciples. Senior Brother Gao, who do you think he is? On the side, Li Chui passed on her Zhen Yuan. If he is an enemy, then there is no need for him to be so polite to us. Therefore we can basically rule him out as an enemy. Gao Ziyuan shook his head. He did not know who Yi Chen was, so he could only analyze it based on his own guesses. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he thought, he could not understand why Yi Chen would say that he was from the school, because there was no such horrifying martial genius in the school. He was already a martial genius. If he had enough resources, he thought that he could train to late Sea of Souls realm. But compared to Yi Chen, it was not even worth mentioning. The latter had been hiding for a long time, and he had not even noticed a single trace of him. Moreover, from his aura, he could vaguely feel that he would be able to stand at the top and look down on all the other mountains. What kind of martial genius was this? He is so young. Wu Changxing had always been a straightforward person, so he spoke more directly. Although his voice was very soft, everyone heard it. It would have been fine if Wu Changxing did not say it. Once he did, everyone finally noticed Yi Chen's appearance. Before, because Yi Chen's aura was way too powerful, they had not noticed it. Yi Chen looked like he was only 22 years old, which meant that he had reached the astral reaching realm at the most. Before reaching the astral reaching realm, all the warriors' lifespan was about the same, around 100 years old. The more powerful ones would reach over 100 years old, which would be considered normal. If Yi Chen had reached the astral reaching realm before 22 years old, he would not have looked like he was 22 years old. If he had reached the astral reaching realm at 22 years old, then the possibility of him reaching the Sea of Souls realm would be zero. So, Yi Chen would have reached the astral reaching realm a few years earlier, perhaps 17 or 18 years old. Becoming an astral reaching realm warrior at the age of 17. This, including Gao Ziyuan, everyone was shocked. In the past 1,000 years, no one had managed to reach the astral reaching realm at the age of 17 or 18. 19 was the youngest, but this record might have been broken by Yi Chen. But what they did not know was that Yi Chen had actually reached the astral reaching realm at the age of 19, which was a year and a half later than Shinho. However, because of the fast speed of reaching the Sea of Souls realm, he looked like he was in his early 20s. When Yi Chen and the group arrived at the middle of the mountain, all of the powerful warriors of the school had already gathered. There were 3 late Sea of Souls realm warriors, 9 mid Sea of Souls realm warriors, and 20 early Sea of Souls realm warriors. There were 32 Sea of Souls realm warriors in total. Adding Gao Ziyuan, there were 33 of them. Among the rank 6 martial schools, the school with 33 Sea of Souls realm warriors was already considered a powerful rank 6 martial school, which was more powerful than any of the rank 6 martial schools in the South Rudra region. Leader, the person who has arrived is very young. He looks kind and peaceful without any killing intent. But we have never seen him before. I wonder if you have any idea? Among the 3 late Sea of Souls realm warriors in the front, a gray-haired elder said to the man in his 50s. The man in his 50s was the leader of the school, called Li Zhangfeng. He looked like a scholar, but there was a trace of tiredness in between his brows. After staying silent for a while, he said, "I have not seen this person before either. But we should not underestimate him. Some people like to use peaceful means before resorting to violence. We have to be careful." Leader, you are right. In the past, they had always fought their way into our school and humiliated us. But in the recent years, they have become even more despicable. They have always been playing those dirty tricks, making fun of us. Today I have decided that even if I die, I will fight with him. Master Lu, do not be reckless. Wait until he gets to the top of the mountain, then we will know if he is a friend or a foe. Li Zhangfeng stared at the path down the mountain, his nerves tensed up. Behind him, all of the elders, attendants and thousands of disciples were also watching without blinking. Some of them had sweat dripping down their foreheads. After about 10 minutes, Yi Chen arrived at the top of the mountain. So young? There were not many people in the school who could release their soul power out. Most of them could only release their mental power. But once one reached the realm of Yi Chen with his powerful sword intent, even if he were to stand there, his mental power would not be able to sense it. There is a half-step king warrior in the Zhangtian martial school? I did not use my soul power to check it out. Yi Chen could tell his cultivation with one look. Great master, don't? Li Zhangfeng and the rest were shocked. Although they knew that Yi Chen was at the half-step king warrior level, the great master had been at the half-step king warrior level for hundreds of years. His cultivation was extremely powerful, and his sword skills were amazing. He had the title of sword maniac. After knowing Yi Chen's identity, they had already considered Yi Chen as one of their own. How could they let the great master kill Yi Chen with one sword attack? Don't worry. Yi Chen faintly smiled as he reached out 2 fingers and pinched it between his fingers. What is he trying to do? Everyone frowned, thinking that Yi Chen was being too arrogant. But they could not stop the great master either, since a half-step king warrior was so powerful. So, Yi Chen was most likely from there as well. Yi Chen nodded, indeed. Then this time, besides telling us about our ancestor, is there anything else? It would be impossible for Li Zhangfeng not to have any expectations, since Yi Chen's power was way more powerful than the great master. He was at least a top half-step king warrior. If there was a top half-step king warrior, the school would be even more powerful, and would not be easily bullied. Yi Chen said honestly, Battle King asked me to come to the Blood Sky Land to have a look. Although he did not ask me to help you directly, I am not a heartless person. Naturally, I will not leave the school alone. If you do not mind, I can find a position in the school. You are willing to be a member of the school? Li Zhangfeng's eyes brightened as he breathed heavily. Inside the palace, all of the top masters looked happy. The school was in a very difficult situation right now, and they needed powerful warriors. I have a family and a martial school in the True Spirit continent as well. Therefore, I cannot join the school with all my heart. But, Senior Li, you can treat me as a member of the school. I am already very happy that you are willing to join the school. Why would I care about anything else? How about this? If you do not mind, you can be the second great master of the school just like the great master. Normally the school will not bother you too much. You just need to focus on your training. Li Zhangfeng would naturally not ask Yi Chen to be an inner master, since it was obviously not nice. No matter if it was Yi Chen's seniority or Yi Chen's power, they were both more than enough to be the great master. Yi Chen did not reject it. In the Sky Cloud Martial School he was the great master. Being a great master in the school would not be too bad either. At least it would not take up too much of his time. After confirming Yi Chen's position, the following topics were much more relaxed. After chatting for a while, Yi Chen could not help but ask, Leader, what happened to the Immortal Sword Martial School? Why did it change its name to the Zhangtian Martial School? And why are there so few disciples? Li Zhangfeng seemed to know that Yi Chen would ask about this, so he answered, It is a long story. I will tell you in a nutshell. When the great ancestor was still in the Blood Sky Land, the Immortal Sword Martial School was like the sun in the sky. There were millions of masters, attendants, and disciples. We were the tyrant of the Iron Blood region. Even the Ironfoot Beast Martial School, one of the top 10 beast martial schools, was suppressed by us. Where there is life, there will be conflicts. It was because the Immortal Sword Martial School was so powerful that when they fought with other martial schools, they would be a bit more aggressive. Yi Chen nodded. Staying here, although we will not be able to develop, and we will have to endure the humiliation from the top 3 martial schools, we will still be able to preserve the foundation of Zhangtian School. With the order from that titled emperor, they will not dare to attack us and destroy us. You're right. Yi Chen had not thought about this at all. This world was full of danger. If Zhang Tian Martial School had a top half-step king warrior, then it would be fine. But if not, then the migration would be very dangerous. For example, if they ran into the Blood Ocean's 50 pirates? No, it would only take a third of the 50 pirates to easily destroy the school. Don't worry, leader. With me here, the 3 sects are nothing to worry about. In the future there will be more and more disciples. Yi Chen had to give Li Zhangfeng a bit of confidence. The top 3 martial schools are nothing to worry about? Li Zhangfeng looked at Yi Chen with a shocked expression. May I ask, Master Yi, are you a top half-step king warrior? Yi Chen smiled lightly and said, you will know in the future. Even if he told them now, they would not really believe him, since he could not reveal all of his trump cards just to win everyone's trust. Although Yi Chen did not say exactly what kind of half-step king warrior he was, all of the masters there were extremely excited. Since Yi Chen could beat the great master so easily, it meant that he was most likely a top half-step king warrior. As for anything above that, they did not even dare to think about it. With a top half-step king warrior, perhaps the top 3 martial schools would be a bit scared, and would not dare to bully the school too much. Yi Chen being promoted to the great master was a big deal. On the second day, Li Zhangfeng called everyone to the plaza in front of the palace and announced Yi Chen's status. Great master? So young? Just like what Li Zhangfeng had expected, everyone was shocked after hearing the news. But no one doubted whether Yi Chen was qualified or not, since the day before, Yi Chen had caught the great master's sword with 2 fingers and blown him away with 1 punch. With the 2 great elders, our Zhang Tian school's days will be much better. That is for sure. Master Ye's power is way more powerful than Master Lu's. If Master Lu can recover, our school will be even more powerful. All of the disciples discussed. Looking at the thousands of disciples, Yi Chen turned his head and said to Li Zhangfeng, Leader, I think most of these disciples have a very high mental state, but their cultivation is a bit low. Do you have enough spirit stones? Li Zhangfeng said awkwardly, we still have some spirit stones in storage but not much. After hundreds of years of not being able to make ends meet, we have less and less spirit stones, especially top-rank spirit stones. Even I am using mid-rank spirit stones to train. Yi Chen had unknowingly reached this boundary and his power had increased by a lot. Oh, it seems like you are very confident in yourself. Yun Xiaoshui cracked a smile, looking a bit evil. Although he was walking with Mo Xiaotang, he could tell that she had not forgotten about Gao Ziyuan, which annoyed him a lot. This time it was his idea to come to the school. He wanted to beat Gao Ziyuan up in front of Mo Xiaotang and let her know who the real martial genius was. Chapter 834. Since it is a battle between your brother disciple and our Zhang Tian Martial School's disciple, why are you interfering? On top of the palace, a shadow moved and turned into a young man in blue robes. It was indeed Yi Chen. He sneered as his body flashed and appeared in the middle of the plaza. It is Master Yi. Master Yi is here. The Zhang Tian Martial School's disciples let out a breath of relief. Ling Hui had given them too much pressure. No one knew how powerful a genius half-step king warrior could be. Only other half-step king warriors of the same level would be able to fight against him. Without a doubt, Yi Chen was at the same level as Ling Hui. Who are you? I have never heard of you before. Is there a second half-step king warrior in the school? Ling Hui saw that Yi Chen was even younger than him, so he controlled his killing intent and asked coldly. I am sorry, but I am the new great master of the school. Yi Chen could sense that Ling Hui's cultivation was the same as his, both high-rank half-step king warriors. But judging from his aura, he seemed to be even more powerful than the Dark Light King. Great master of the school? Ling Hui frowned. Where did the school find such a young half-step king warrior? Was it a secret training? Impossible. Even if it was, he would not be able to escape the surveillance of the top 3 martial schools. Then, there would only be one explanation. This person had come to the school from somewhere else, so he should have some kind of connection with the school. Perhaps they did not tell you about the school's situation. I advise you to leave the school immediately. Otherwise you will regret coming here. Ling Hui was not in a hurry to attack. Yi Chen's cultivation was the same as his, so it would not be easy for him to beat him. I naturally know about the school's situation. But, since I have become the great master of the school, I will not allow outsiders to humiliate it. It does not matter if it is the Extreme Heaven Martial School, the Bald Eagle Valley, or the Earth Bear family. None of them will do it. Hearing him, Ling Hui laughed out of extreme anger. He had already given a lot of face to Yi Chen, but he did not expect the latter to not only ignore him, but also look down on the top 3 martial schools. It seems like you will not give up until you are in your grave. Ling Hui squinted his eyes as his killing intent spread out. Bastard from the Extreme Heaven sect, take this. All of a sudden, a stream of sword chi swept over from the side of the mountain, where Master Lu and Yi Chen lived. One on the left and the other on the right, guarding the main peak of the school. It was Elder Lu who had unleashed the sword chi. Although Master Lu had lost his mind and could not tell who was who, he was very familiar with the demi-king chi of the 3 martial schools. In the sky, Yi Chen and Ling Hui stood facing each other for miles. The evil shattering sword in his hand shone with a sharp sword light. Who the hell are you? The power that Yi Chen had displayed had shocked Ling Hui. Although he was not one of the life and death realm warriors in the Blood Skylands waiting list, he thought that some of them might not be able to compete with him. He was only born a couple of years later, and had never entered the life and death secret realm before. Who I am is not important. What is important is that you better go back and tell the Extreme Heaven Martial School not to humiliate themselves. Yi Chen said. Arrogant. You really think you can beat me? Ling Hui yelled as he pushed his Zhen Yuan to its limit. The gloves on his hands shone with a powerful halo. These gloves were a pair of pseudo-extreme rank gloves that Ling Hui had obtained by chance. With these gloves he dared to take on Yi Chen's attacks head-on. Master Yi had forced back the number 1 martial genius of the Extreme Heaven Martial School, Ling Hui? So powerful. What is this Master Yi's background? Although everyone in the Zhangtian Martial School knew that Yi Chen was related to the Battle King, no one knew about Yi Chen's background. They were very curious about Yi Chen because with Yi Chen's talent and power, he would not be a nobody in the place he was from. He might be a powerful warrior. On the plaza, Master Lu and Li Zhangfeng stood together. He did not attack Ling Hui without caring about anything like last time, because the battle between Yi Chen and Ling Hui was too intense for him to get involved. Although his mind was not clear, he still had his instincts. You guys take Ziyuan away and let him rest. Li Zhangfeng ordered a couple of attendants to take Gao Ziyuan away as he stared at the sky without blinking. Ling Hui was not that easy to beat. Right now they could only rely on Yi Chen. If Yi Chen could not even beat Ling Hui, then the future of the Zhangtian Martial School would not be any better. Chapter 835. Ding, 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 ding. The bright light kept flashing in the sky as Yi Chen and Ling Hui started to exchange attacks at an extremely fast speed. Both of them were martial geniuses who had been through hundreds of battles. The intensity of the battle could not be described with just attacking power, but also speed, experience, and their battling talents. Demon Wind Heaven Cry. This time, Ling Hui successfully performed the last movement of his Demon Wind God Fist art. This movement combined the Wind Profound and the Dark Profound even better. Throwing out a punch, the Dark Tornado made a loud noise, and one could vaguely hear a crying sound as if even the sky itself was crying. He is indeed more powerful than the Dark Light King. The Dark Light King was too old and normally he would not be able to step into the life and death challenge. But he had. However, judging on power he was not as powerful as Ling Hui, and definitely not as powerful as the Thunder Spirit King. Among the top half-step king warriors, the Thunder Spirit King was the most horrifying one that Yi Chen had ever met. Without using his Sky Scorpio sword and the Yuan Emperor's image, Yi Chen did not have the confidence to beat the Thunder Spirit King. Facing Ling Hui's extremely powerful fist attack, Yi Chen did not try to dodge at all. Instead, he threw out an attack with his evil shattering sword, and a beautiful black moon appeared in the midair. Compared to Yi Chen's waning moon, Ling Hui's demon wind heaven cry was still a lot weaker. The second the two clashed, the incoming fist wind was sliced open layer by layer. Could not be stopped at all. Ling Hui was so shocked that he threw out a couple of punches before he could cancel out the sword attack. However, Yi Chen's follow-up attack had arrived. A sword light flashed in the midair as Yi Chen suddenly appeared in front of Ling Hui, stabbing out with his sword. Since the sword's speed was way too fast, it did not leave any trace, only leaving a hair-thin sword hole on Ling Hui's protective Zhenyuan layer. Clang. Sparks flew out from Ling Hui's chest as his whole body was blown backward for 3 miles, puking out a mouthful of blood mist. What kind of sword speed is this? Ling Hui felt a chill in his heart. He could barely see Yi Chen's movement pattern, but he could not sense Yi Chen's sword attack pattern at all. In the Blood Sky Land, it was not that he had not fought with those top young martial geniuses before. Among the life and death realm warriors, there were 1 or 2 of them who had fought with him, but none of them were as fast as Yi Chen. Lowering his head to look at his chest, Ling Hui's pupils shrank. The semi-extreme rank armor that he was wearing had a small hole in it, and it would have been pierced through completely. On the main plaza of the Zhang Tian Martial School, everyone could not help but gasp. The Zhenyuan usage would also reach a limit. It was just like a life and death realm warrior controlling the same amount of Zhenyuan. Ling Hui's speed was a couple of times faster than before. It was even faster than Yi Chen's movement speed. Obviously, this extreme heaven demon body had increased his power tremendously. Demon Wind Heaven Cry. The same movement was performed by Ling Hui right then, and it was even more powerful. Although the level of the profound had not increased, the Zhenyuan usage had increased drastically. This is indeed a powerful heaven realm martial art. I wonder how the real extreme heaven demon body would compare with the Battle King's platinum sword body. Yi Chen's expression did not change. If he wanted to, he could perform his sword realm right away and kill Ling Hui. Even without the sword realm, his bewitching mirror shatter would be able to wound him severely. However, it was not worth it for him to reveal too many of his trump cards. Break. Holding his sword with both of his hands, Yi Chen performed his sword art ace attack, Waning Moon. This time, it had an intense destruction element, which was the effect of Yi Chen infusing his destruction sword intent into his attack. A black waning moon flashed once in the midair, leaving behind a horrifying mark. Blood splashed everywhere. How did Ling Hui get here and how did he get back? On his chest, the semi-extreme rank armor had been completely cracked open. A blood-colored sword mark had almost pierced through his chest, and it was indeed where the blood came from. How is this possible? Ling Hui was blown away without any resistance, his face full of disbelief. The extreme heaven demon body was his biggest ace, and it was also what he had relied on to enter the life and death secret realm. It had been broken just like that, and it seemed like it had been done without any effort. How would he know that Yi Chen's power had already reached an unbelievable level? If he wanted to battle with him, if he did not have the upper hand in terms of cultivation, then there would be no chance of winning at all. Other martial geniuses would treat battling beyond their cultivation like eating and drinking, but Yi Chen treated it as the most basic thing. The two were not even on the same level. This is too powerful. Everyone from the Zhang Tian Martial School had their eyes wide open. They did not have much experience, but they knew that no matter how much Ling Hui had increased his power, he was still like a toy in Yi Chen's hands. They were both martial geniuses, but the gap between them was way too huge. Slowly landing on the main plaza, Yi Chen put his sword back into its scabbard, looking normal. He did not look at Ling Hui, who had been hit by his full-power sword attack. Without a couple of months of rest, he would not be able to return to his peak condition. That destruction sword intent alone would be enough to give him a headache. Chapter 836. The wounded Ling Hui and Yun Xiaoshui left the school in a hurry. Mo Xiaotang was a disciple of the Extreme Heaven Martial School, so she followed them. Before she left, she asked someone to tell Gao Ziyuan that she would leave the Extreme Heaven Martial School and join the school. Yi Chen shook his head. He was afraid that he would have to deal with Mo Xiaotang again. Of course, if the Extreme Heaven Martial School could let her go, then it would be even better. After beating Ling Hui, Yi Chen had become a calming pill in everyone's mind. Everyone's depression had disappeared, and their spirits were lifted. In the past few years, the school had been humiliated way too much, and there had never been a day where they could vent their anger like today. Returning to his own mountain, Yi Chen cleared his mind and continued to train his profound and sword arts. The witching mirror shattering is already completed, and my waning moon has made some progress as well. Now I can spend more time on my spiritual sword. Since my fast profound has made progress, my slow profound should follow suit. The waning moon was focused on attacking, while the bewitching mirror shattering was a combination of sealing and attacking. Although the spiritual sword was not as powerful as the other two, it was still quite useful. If he ran into someone with the same power as him, then it might be able to play an important role. Extreme Heaven Martial School. Seeing Ling Hui and Yun Xiaoshui who had returned with severe wounds, the whole school was shocked. From the leader to the great master to the inner and outer disciples, everyone was shocked. Yun Xiaoshui had returned with severe wounds, since he was only at peak level late Sea of Souls realm. But Ling Hui was a real half-step king warrior, and his power had already reached the top half-step king warrior level. Who could wound him badly? Perhaps he had been attacked by a group of half-step king warriors? Inside the main palace of the Extreme Heaven Martial School, the leader and the great master of the Extreme Heaven Martial School did not look good. They had already learned the reason from the two, and they could not believe that there would be a very young half-step king warrior that even Ling Hui would not be able to compete with. You have fought with him before. Do you know what level his power has reached? The great master of the Extreme Heaven Martial School was a gray-haired elder. He had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. His eyes were like that of a wolf eagle, very aggressive. He stared at Ling Hui and asked. Although Ling Hui was the head disciple of the Extreme Heaven Martial School, his position was no lower than the highest elder. He was only second to the leader. He had calmed down and said, I have fought with the Sky Tiger Master before. From what I can see, the Tiger Master is no match for him. Even young Master Tiger is no match for him. The leader of the Extreme Heaven Martial School was Ling Hui's second grandpa, named Ling Huho. After hearing Ling Hui's analysis, he frowned. The Sky Tiger Beast Martial School was one of the top 10 beast martial schools in the Blood Sky Land, and it was even more powerful than the Iron Foot Beast Martial School in the Iron Blood region. The Tiger Master from the Sky Tiger Beast Martial School was one of the top martial geniuses of the beast race. He had already reached the peak of the first level of the Life and Death Challenge, and was ranked 15th in the Life and Death Realm substitute list. Ling Hui had fought with him last year, and his protective Jin Yuan layer had been broken by his claw attack. That's impossible. The Tiger Master did not use all of his power when he fought with you. The elder did not want to belittle Ling Hui, but the truth was the truth. Young Tiger Warrior was the descendant of the Sky Tiger race, and the Sky Tiger bloodline was very pure. Although it was not as pure as the Sky Tiger, it was still very scary. Plus, he was at the peak of the first Life and Death Challenge. His power was so scary that even two Ling Hui would not be his opponent. Ling Hui nodded. That is why I said that the Tiger Master would at most be on par with him. As a martial genius, Ling Hui had his pride. Losing to Yi Chen was indeed embarrassing for him, but it was not enough for him to deny Yi Chen's power. In his opinion, the Tiger Master might not even be as powerful as Yi Chen. And if he wanted to win against the Tiger Master and Yi Chen, he would have to increase his cultivation to the first level of the Life and Death Challenge. Ling Hui had been wounded very badly. After he finished talking, he puked out a mouthful of blood. You go and rest first, Ling Huho said with concern. Second uncle, I will go into closed-door training this time, all the way until the Life and Death Secret Realm begins. With such a serious injury, normal half-step king warriors would not be able to recover even after a couple of months. But Ling Hui had the support of the whole Extreme Heaven Martial School and enough resources, so he was confident that he could completely recover within a month. In the remaining time, he would try his best to reach the first level of the Life and Death Challenge. He had a feeling that this trip to the Life and Death Secret Realm would be the most powerful one he had ever experienced. The mountain peak was verdant and white clouds lingered around it. On the peak of the mountain, a blue figure stood motionless. The sword in his hand kept stabbing out, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Chi. The flickering sword mark lingered in the void for a breath of time before disappearing. Not far away, Gao Ziyuan walked over step by step. Seeing Yi Chen practicing his swordsmanship, he quietly waited at the side with a curious look in his eyes. leaving a mark in the surreal space. He is not far from breaking the space. Gao Ziyuan had a new understanding of Yi Chen's power. He was not an ignorant person, so he knew very well how hard it was to leave a mark in the surreal space, which meant that each of Yi Chen's sword attacks had the power to break the space. You are here. Yi Chen put his sword back into its scabbard and turned around. Greetings, Master Yi. Gao Ziyuan greeted with his hands. Yi Chen waved his hand. You and I are about the same age. No need to be so polite. He studied Gao Ziyuan. It seems like you have fully recovered, and your cultivation has reached peak level late seas of Soul's realm as well. You have improved a bit faster than I expected. This is all thanks to Master Ye's healing pellets and Zhenyuan crystals. After the battle with Yun Xiaoshui, Gao Ziyuan's meridians had almost been broken. Fortunately, Yi Chen did not have much, but he had a lot of rare treasures. He casually took out a couple of them and healed Gao Ziyuan's wounds completely in a short period of time. His cultivation had also reached peak level late seas of Soul's realm. I called you here because I want you to tell me about the young generation of the Blood Skyland. There were still 2 months before the life and death secret realm would open, so Yi Chen needed to know about these people. Gao Ziyuan knew that the young generation that Yi Chen was talking about were the top martial geniuses below the age of 50, not the geniuses of the same age. After organizing his thoughts, Gao Ziyuan said, in the Blood Skyland, there are a total of 5 people who have entered the life and death realm substitute list. But that was 9 years ago. Right now, the most famous ones are the 8 beast warriors and the 4 demons. 8 beast warriors and 4 demons? Yi Chen's eyebrows flicked. Gao Ziyuan said, 8 beast warriors, 5 of them are beasts, 3 are demi-beasts and the 4 demons. 1 is a demi-demon and 3 humans. Let's talk about the 8 beast warriors first. The leader of the 8 beast warriors is the elephant warrior from the Battle Elephant Martial School, ranked 3rd in the life and death realm substitute list. He has the ancient Battle Elephant bloodline, and his godly power is unrivaled. Only with his physical power, not many people would be able to compete with him. I heard that his power had already reached over £1 million. Over £1 million? Indeed not to be underestimated. Yi Chen could not help but think of Yen Fengfeng. She was also a beast among the 100 beasts, but her bloodline was the purest, the real Blue Phoenix bloodline. Although some of the other beasts had been passed down from generation to generation, their bloodline power was getting thinner and thinner, and it would be hard for them to have a pure bloodline descendant. It was something that could not be helped. Take the demi-beasts for example. The rest should not be your opponent. Ling Hu Yi was one of the 4 demons which were just as famous as the 8 beast warriors. If even Ling Hu Yi was not an opponent for Yi Chen, then it was not hard to imagine that among the 8 beast warriors and the 4 demons, there would not be many who could compete with Yi Chen. With that thought in mind, Gao Ziyuan was very curious about Yi Chen's identity. Yi Chen looked very young, definitely not more than 30 years old. But his power was unpredictable. With a bold guess, Yi Chen might be one of the top martial geniuses in the True Spirit continent.